coming over and they're all angry, and I'm just like, oh God. And they're like, let Kasey talk. What is that? I'm like, I'm here to listen to Charlie. What are you talking? And I want to hear Justin's input on his fasting. And like,
Yeah, well, we're live now. Hey, everybody.
I,
Hi.
Hi, hi, hi. Hey, Ichabod, Penny, Third Eye Trader, Kimmy, AZ, JC.
cheers to y'all.
Yeah, yeah, welcome, welcome. We're just we've just been chatting about all the things that we normally do.
Vegetable police, he is dreamy. Just keep on throwing those comments out there. I don't mind them at all.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. So this is just to give a little introduction. I've been talking with Kasey about this, and Marie's on board as well, and we want to kind of make this a series. Um, I don't know how often we're going to do it, but the idea is we just want to get this conversation going because we get questions all the time about health and the frugivore diet and juicing and alkalinity and all sorts of things like that. And I think it'd just be a great way to keep that conversation going. And the idea is to have the three of us on, and then each week or each time we do it, we'll have a different sort of expert on to join us that will kind of share their expertise with us. So this week it's going to be Remembrancer, who's getting sorted and connected with us and should be here in a minute. But the idea is to just sort of spread that knowledge around and spread our experience and what we've been through. And so yeah, it should be an exciting conversation each time. And it's one that's so vital because when we heal ourselves, when we heal our bodies, when we have that foundation. And Marie, we've talked a lot about this in the Bible, in the book of Matthew, like that's all that the baptism of water is about. And that's what John the Baptist was about, was purifying this body as this foundational step. Because then when you do that, then you cross over, you crucify, and you cross the fiction, and you move into the more ethereal realms. You move into heaven on earth where you can connect with God. But you have to have that foundation first. You have to work on the body, and you have to have that ability to see clearly in order to step into that next step. So it's a powerful thing to do, and one that we can all take improvements on and bring ourselves into. Um, so yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen Kasey and his work before, his channel is Vegetable Police, and yeah, what he does is he's taken a very transparent and authentic approach to really exploring all realms of health and any which way that all sorts of different avenues of what we consume and how we consume things to see what is the optimum route. And then he goes for it 100%. He goes full into it and just sees what and just really experiments and shows what happens and sort of provides us with a firsthand look as to what can happen when you dive right in headfirst into a full diet, for better or for worse. So we really appreciate that sort of service and that sort of way of transparently showing. And just recently, Kasey's been on he's fully committed to the juice feasting, and yeah, you see he's got a nice glass of watermelon juice. And so yeah, Kasey, do you want to go ahead and give a little introduction to yourself and anything else you want to share as far as your journey and what got you here?
Sure. Yeah. For those who don't know me, my name's Kasey, and I started the Vegetable Police channel years ago because I healed myself of ulcerative colitis. I was diagnosed in my early 20s, and the doctors, I was just having so much pain for so long. Like, I let it go for way too long, and I'm like bleeding. I'm like, what am I eating? What's going on? And so I get diagnosed. I had the colonoscopy and I could see my colon. I was like, wow, that looks as painful as it feels. And the doctors where like you have colitis, pancolitis, the whole colon is just ulcerated. And I was relieved. I was like, okay, the doctors, you know what it is, and you have the fix. I know you do. And so I was just like, so what do I eat? And they're like, oh, that doesn't matter. Just eat whatever you want. Diet has nothing to do with this digestive disease. Don't worry about that. But as soon as I heard that, I was like, it was this like realization that, okay, you guys are insane. It's obviously a diet related illness. It's my colon. And I realized I was on my own at that point. I guess before then, I looked up to the medical industry, like, oh, there they are. They're the experts. And then I just realized it hit me like a tank. Like, what do you mean diet has nothing to do with it? So I just started researching like mad. And it took me 6 years to find the raw vegan diet. Like, that's how well it was hidden back then, I think, or how bad my skills were at finding it. I kept researching different diets, and I tried a couple, and I ended up in the emergency room on my first attempt. I read this book, The SCD Diet, and this lady cured her daughter of ulcerative colitis. And it was with like, you make your own yogurt out of dairy. And so I'm doing this, and we'll come to see later, that's what was causing my colitis in the first place. I have a dairy allergy. And so like I'm going on this dairy, I'm making it myself, and I'm following the protocol, and I'm losing weight. I'm dying. I'm bleeding. I'm like, this is not working. I ended up in the emergency room because I was just like 110 pounds. I had nothing left. And so from that point on, I kept searching like a madman until one day, like I put so many hours into it. And finally, I remember being just so tired of searching. I was like, not again. Okay, diet, cure colitis. And then this new book came up by David Klein. Uh, I forget what it's called, Healing Colitis and Crohn's or something. And it was this fruit-based diet, and I'd never tried that. And I was like, okay. So I just started researching what the diet was. I ordered the book and then started practicing. It's like, you just eat fruit. And I did for a while. I was losing a ton of weight. I was starving. I ended up binging for like 2 weeks on fast food because I was under eating, and I was just like, I didn't heal in 2 weeks. This is bullshit. So I binged. I bought this, like I live next to a cookie factory, and I bought this garbage bag size thing of cookies, and I'm just eating them like, what the hell? But eventually the book showed up, and I did that, and I got off all medication. Like I was on this sulfur-based anti-inflammatory stuff that I do like. I think I'm still getting rid of that stuff, judging by what's happening in the bathroom there. It's coming out of me still. And so I stayed on that for like that medication for like 6 years. And then when reading that book, he said, like, these medications are toxic. That's keeping you from healing. Like you need to get rid of your toxins and just detox. And so I started on that path. I stopped taking the medication overnight, went down to nothing, and I got this like flu-like symptoms. I got freezing and ended up just being, so I've been med free basically since then, 2008. And the problem was I went vegan to heal myself, not because it was what I wanted to do. I was in the back of my mind, I was like, when can I go back to eating like I used to eat? I miss all these foods. Like I had a lot of addictions. I want hamburgers. I want all this pizza. Like that's what we're fed in school. Like we're taught to love this stuff. And so I kept experimenting like that. I would feel better on the fruits and then go back and eat something, and oh, ow, I can't do that. And it didn't hit me until 2012. We're talking 4 years of this kind of healing and going back, and that I bought this big block of sheep cheese, raw organic. And I was like, okay, this is the truth here. Paleo, high fat. And I'm eating it. And I've never eaten more cheese in my life. I kept going with it every night, and my stomach's getting worse and worse. And my friend as well, he bought some and he's getting worse. And then I had the worst colitis flare up of my life. And I finally connected it. It's the cheese this whole time, because I've been having it like pasta and Parmesan. And so I finally decided to go vegan. And once I did, within 7 months, I hadn't had a flare, whereas usually it was like every month it was constant. And I was like, that was it. You have to be vegan to do this. And that's when I started my YouTube channel. And then I've tried many different things over the years because I kind of struggled a bit on the fruit-based diet. And as you'll see, like a fruit-based diet, it's kind of slow to detox you compared to the juices. It's like I was stuck in this raw till 4 maintenance diet that you can eat after you're healed, maybe. You can have some potatoes at night, maybe. But while you're trying to heal, it's like you're just going to be stuck in your symptoms for so long. So that's why I'm just going for it on the juice fast. We're going 90 days if we got it. So sorry, I talked way too long. Anybody?
No, no, I think that's great, and hearing your testimony is so powerful to and it's helpful. It's helpful for others to hear that because we all go through, we all kind of have like our divine little nods that help push us into the right direction, and so a lot of times we ignore those and think, oh no, it couldn't be that, um, and especially with you feeling that sort of slow detoxing of just when on just the fruit. It's very possible to do it just on the fruit, but it does take a lot longer. And so that's what's so beneficial, and that's why so many people advocate for that juice feast, at least initially, to have one good long one at the beginning, because it just helps push everything out, get a clean start, get rid of all of those parasites that are driving us with all of these temptations and addictions, and then you come out with a clean slate on the other side, and it's much easier to maintain, and really all you do want is the high vibe, the raw food, mostly fruit kind of diet. But yeah, thanks for sharing. Marie, did you have anything you want to add?
I just think what you're speaking to is like the power of our mind sometimes, and how we're so, we know it's true, we get it, but then there's that alignment that wants to happen where we accept it and we allow it, and we're like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I think it's really inspiring to hear your testimony, because I think some of us have health issues that become so unavoidable because we're meant to go this deep, and we're meant to be sharing our experiences, because it's, talking what Justin said in the beginning, like our bodies and cleaning out our bodies is something that I think most of us ignore. And we just kind of like, we're bloated, we're uncomfortable, but it's a social thing, and we just don't really go as deep with the body as we do maybe with other spiritual concepts. We're like, oh, I get that, or I'm super intellectual, but really honoring the temple is something I think that humanity, we need to come back to that basic. It's like what Justin was saying in the beginning, like that's the starting point, is honoring that you have this avatar and it's incredible and it needs some attention, it needs some appreciation, and we need to retrain ourselves. Absolutely. Because my goodness, even with my littles, like they're still asking for things, and they're 4 and 7. So like they're already, because it's here, it's there. And I think that's why so many of us too are looking to get out more off the grid as well, so that these types of situations are easier. Like I think it's maybe harder for people like Kasey. For me, it's certainly not been an easy journey because we're leaders in the movement. But then hopefully our intention is to support others and making it a little bit easier, because we know, and we were like the first ones to go through, like not the first, but some of the pioneers in this movement, the trailblazers. Because it is something that if you want optimal health, it's something that everyone's going to have to realize and accept, that we're frugivores. I wore my fruity outfit, you guys. I don't know if you can see it. See, I got lemons and oranges. But that was a big one for me. When Charlie and Colleen started with that, like, we're frugivores, it was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And I just thought that, and I was vegan on and off my whole life, but, vegan, it was just always so hard to fit in being a vegan, and then it was that whole situation. I think that's why a lot of us too are so attracted to this community, because we have, brothers and sisters that we can talk freely with around the struggles and around the wins, and how great it feels to be getting all this gunk out. My goodness. Yeah. And I think the cleaner, one more thing I'll say, is just that the cleaner that I get, the harder it is. The suffering is so much more intense. So really, Kasey, what you were sharing, I really resonated with. It's like, you're going, and then you go back and you go, "Bleh." You know, it's like so obvious. And sometimes like we need that because we're so thick-headed. But yeah, that's where all the spiritual stuff comes into. So I'm happy to be in this little call and group with you guys. I love this conversation.
Yeah, it's so important to have. And, you know, just to quickly touch on, I think having that, like these kind of conversations, it might seem somewhat complicated, the detox process and what we have to do in order to get there. But fortunately, once we get over this hump, and for future generations, like it really does get really simple. The only reason the detox process is complicated is because it has been complicated to get us into this sick state. You know, they've done a really good job at plaguing us with all sorts of different things to get us built on layers and layers and layers, and they hide the truth so well to keep it away from us. But once we shift and get away from all that cloud and obscurity, it's going to be simple. It's like, okay, what go pick some fruit from the trees, you know, like pick whatever you want, eat as much as you want, have as many as you like, you know, and that's it. And that's all we have to do. And it's just simple.
Yeah. It's hard for
I
us to
can't.
accept it. Simple.
What did you say? Sorry, I
Just
talked
that
over
it
you.
is so simple, that life could be so simple. Just eat fruit. Like it's so simple. But it's like, oh, well, how could that be? I said it to somebody on the beach yesterday. She's like, well, how could that be? You know, and it's like, because it is. I didn't make it up. I'm just kind of trying to live along the lines of God's laws and nature. I want to be in my natural state of being, which is healthy and vibrant and abundant. But if I'm not in alignment with my physical body, then it's very difficult to do that because I'm just literally out of the field. I'm out of alignment. And we can't think our way into this. It's definitely, it's a holistic experience. We've got to have the right action. And it is a retrain. It's like what you said earlier too, like, you know, it took you 6 years to find the vegan diet because it is so hidden. And I sometimes have to deal with my resentments around how sick I had to get and how deep I had to go. But, you know, that's a part of my journey. I'm working through that in terms of forgiveness and so forth. But like, yeah, it's like, wow, all the suffering, all the surgery, all the sickness that had to happen to come to the simple truth, just eat fruit. Not after the meat and the steak and the dairy, because that's how we grew up. Like you eat a big meal and then you have the fruit after. That's even worse. It's like, God, so no wonder we were all so really sick. And just accepting that's normal. That's our natural state as humans. And we're divine. Like we're meant to be vibrant and glowy and healthy and just energetic. Yeah, the energy's been amazing. That's what I say.
Yeah, it's the only thing that makes sense. Like in nature, it's like, of course, we would be drawn to the fruits. And I can't wait till this world is set up where we're planting more fruit trees, because obviously there could be apple trees, even in Canada. There could be a couple on every block. There'd be fruit everywhere. A lot of fruit flies too. But just like imagine the homeless people right now, like they have nothing to eat and they just get a little bit and they can afford fast food. Like they could just be at the trees. They shouldn't exist. Homeless people. I feel bad. I see them every day. But yeah, I've seen the other side. Like I went full into the carnivore stuff because for a while I lost belief in the fruit, I guess, because it was taking so long on this, like, not even fully cleansing path. I still had food addictions and I'm wanting this like super satisfying starchy giant meal at night. So I think like I'm cleansing with a couple mono fruit meals and a giant bowl of pasta. It's like, no, I cleansed. Don't worry. I'm cleansing. And so I've seen the other side, and I can just tell you, like, I'm on day 24 now of this juice fast. And I did a 13-day one. Like I've done many 1 to 3 day ones leading up. And then I saw John Rose for the first time. Somebody told me about him on my channel, and I was like, oh my God, John Rose, that guy is the truth. And so immediately I was like, yep, juice fast. All right, we're doing that. And I made it to 13 days and I couldn't handle the detox. It was a bit much. I was just flushing like crazy. But the thing is, like, I was mostly raw vegan at that time with the odd bit of starch. And I think by day 7, I wasn't really getting crazy stuff out of me. It was probably in there, but now that I've been on carnivore, you would not believe the things coming out of me. Like, I see it now very clearly. Meat is just sludge. It's mucusy and it's stuck and gets stuck there. Like, it's so sticky and old and it's nasty. It's so bad. And I'm seeing some experiments. If anybody's curious about some amazing YouTube channels, the Free Melon Society. This is my new favorite channel. He is amazing. I'll try to put a link if I can, but he's like fruitarian. He's done a bunch of fasting and water fasting, and he does these experiments where he cooked meat and showed you what it would look like in your stomach. So he boiled it till it was like digested, and then it was just so thick and sticky, and it's like, that's what I'm getting out now, and I can see it, I can smell it. It ain't right. So it's like I always bounce back and forth between, like, what's the opposite of the fruit-based diet? It would be the high-fat diet, the cavemen, even though they didn't even exist. That's all a lie. I can't wait till some of that gets thrown out into the open, because like, we really think we were cavemen with spears hunting big woolly mammoths. Like, it just wasn't happening. So like, that's the other side, and they think they're as right as we are. But I've experienced it. I tried it, and I don't think so. I felt okay. Like, I felt okay physically. I had good energy. My skin cleared up, but I was angry like all the time. And my liver, have you felt that?
I did keto for a while, because I'm healing from breast cancer. So, I mean, I started with keto. Like, it was starve the cancer, and so like all of that, all of the magazines, all the books, all the doctors pushing that. But within a year, I was so acidic and so sick. I felt good initially, but after the first 90 days, your anger, my adrenals were shot, my energy was shot, for me, the energy, and I was saying this to my husband and lots of friends in this journey, is that healing is a vibration. It's a frequency. And when you're eating animals, it lowers the frequency to that angry vibe where healing cannot exist. So fruits, on the opposite hand, lift your frequency, fill you with so much light, so that I'm vibing, and that's where the healing is. That's what's going to just shift the cell structures and shift everything out. But I can't be angry and try and heal. Those things cannot coexist in my experience. And so when we speak like this, it's not meant to hurt anybody's feelings or anything, but it's saying, look, Kasey's had this experience. I've had this experience going from, high fat, caveman-y type diet, and then shifting over to the frugivore diet. And wow, it's night and day. And it's so opposite. It's so obvious, the difference. It's just obvious. It's like, if I'm not listening to this, then I'm just lying to myself. And that kind of gets boring after a while, because you're still sick, and now you're lying, and now you're defending the lie. And then what? And then it took me for sure on this whole journey through, wait, were we cavemans? We were cavemen. Like, that never felt right. It feels more resonant to me to think of us, hanging out in the Garden of Eden, munching on apples and pears and yumminess, and taking care of each other and living in community, rather than trying to find animals to murder so that we can cook them or eat them raw and then live. Like that, again, it comes back to common sense, but people get really pissed when you say stuff like that. And it's just because of their attachment, and their vibration is lower. They don't like to hear that, but that's been my experience. And so I just have to think, if we're all one and we're all made from the same creator, then that is the truth. If it was like that for me, then it would likely be that for you. And we can see it in people's faces. We can see it in their behaviors. We can see it in how they respond to all sorts of stimuli that we see out in the world right now. That if someone is really high strung on the meats and the coffees and the dairies and the breads and the glutens and all of these things, they're generally not going to be very peaceful. I mean, that's kind of, they might be able to put on a little fake show, but we're talking about in the moment. Can you drop into the spirit of God in any given moment? Is a frequency that is nurtured with following your nature, which is the frugivore diet.
Yeah, I mean, it's that micro to macro when you've got all of these things that we're consuming that our body really can't digest at all. It's like a war is going on inside. It's like there's so much complication, there's so much disharmony, and so it begins to manifest outwardly too. And that's why even if we, that's another great thing about juice feasting and having that clean slate to come off of, because when we can't even recognize what we're consuming and what it does to us, if we're just eating all sorts of everything, like just thousands of stimuli all coming at us all at once, we have no idea why we feel a certain way. And we're just like, oh, well, I just guess I just feel this weird thing today or whatever else, and it just manifests in this other way. But when you can have that clean slate and then you start to consume things, you're like, okay, I can eat these nuts and see how that feels. So that doesn't feel too great. Like maybe I should avoid those, or I can eat that piece of bread and it can come off in a different way. Hey, what's up, brother?
Always that minute of like,
Yeah. But yeah, just having that juice feasting, that clean slate is really an empowering example, because it allows us to take ownership of our experiments and to really um, yeah, really be able to empower ourselves with what we're consuming and how it makes us feel. Hey, brother. Yeah, if you click on the little arrow next to the mute button, you can select what your microphone is. So there's a little up arrow next to the mute button. We can't hear you. And then you just pick whichever one. Now you're muted through Zoom.
I made it. I'm here.
Yes.
Hear
Yes.
you.
He's
Loud
here.
and crystal clear. Hello, hello, hello.
Beautiful.
My electricity went out last night and then just again, so I had to do a walkabout to Santos's, but I'm here.
Beautiful. We're glad to have you, brother.
I'm so happy to be here. I really look forward to this. This is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we've just been kind of going into so we did Kasey's introduction, his healing journey, and then we've just been discussing sort of establishing that baseline, detox, and allowing our bodies to fully embrace the different stimuli that we're inputting into our bodies, and then be able to empower ourselves to be able to make the right decisions moving forward, instead of being in this constant state of warring within, where we've got all these different things that we can't really digest, and how that manifests outwardly into a state of disarray and disharmony. So that's a kind of quick summary of the discussion so far. But yeah, I'm glad to have you here, and kind of what I wanted to do, if it feels right to y'all. But I'd love to give Kasey an opportunity to ask Remembrancer any questions that you've got so far on your juice feasting journey, and then Murray and I can chime in as well, and we can just kind of take the conversation from there. What are you sipping on today, Amber? Looks like grapefruit.
That smooth grapefruit juice. It's my
Nice.
favorite right now.
Yeah, I started my day with that too. That's how I broke my fast.
Oh,
So good.
divine. It's the best. It's just the best way to love your liver as far as I'm concerned.
So good.
That's always been my least favorite fruit, I think. I must have not had a good one because it has that kind of bitter taste to it, but maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, they're
Well,
super ripe down here in Mexico. I found it can be a hit or miss, but when they're in season, it's just the sweetness overtakes the bitter. But it is bitter because that's what loves the liver. So you're right, but that's typically indicative that it's not fully mature.
yeah, and I think it's important to embrace our little subtleties. We are frugivores. We do need the fruit-based diet, but I found we all resonate towards different fruits a little differently. So it's important to really step into it and just own where you resonate, what you're feeling in that particular time, and maybe you're detoxing from something that you need a particular type of fruit at that particular time, and maybe something doesn't resonate because it's not reacting to something in a certain way. But really just listening to ourselves and seeing what comes up is a great way to be.
Yeah, I know for sure. Like I got this. That's watermelon juice. And this is what awaits me. More watermelon juice. Yay. And the first one is always like, oh yeah, nectar of the gods. This is fantastic. And then the second or third one's like, oh, more watermelon juice. This is good. Thank goodness I get to have more juice again. But yeah, sometimes it can get a bit much, but I juice it all at one time and then I have it. So it's like, okay, that was easy. It makes life easy, but it's not always the most fun time. But yeah, I did have an interesting question about slowing and speeding up detox, because a lot of us, like, we know fruits seem to be, well, nothing would be top of the mountain water fast. But when I was on a water fast, I wasn't releasing anything. Like, they're very different, a juice fast and a water fast. Like, I just see it as like a water fast. It's more spiritual. And also, since you're taking in no calories, your body's like searching for old damaged tissue to burn as fuel. So like you can get things that you would never get out, but a juice fast more to like flush the digestive tract. And I'm having so much fun on this juice fast. I just passed the 21 days versus my 21-day water fast. I'm going to make a video about that 21-day water fast versus 21-day juice fast. It's very different. And this is fantastic so far. So like, I guess nothing but fruits would be the ultimate speed up of detox. And then like, how does vegetables, even juice, slow down detox? It seems like it's so easy to digest. Like maybe you know why, like what is the mechanism of slowing down detox? Over to you, Remembrancer.
So first of all, I want to address the watermelon thing. So I had the same thing of kind of getting a little bit jaded on the W juice, but the way I like to spice it up is to literally spice it up. So if you put Ceylon cinnamon in watermelon juice, it is absolutely a divine combination. Marie can attest to this. So can her niños. They love the Ceylon cinnamon. You don't want to do the cassia cinnamon because that's the herbaceous, or the Ceylon is from Sri Lanka. That's the trunk of the tree. That is the sincere cinnamon that you want. And then also, I add cayenne to watermelon and I call it fire melon juice. It is insidiously delicious and satisfying and energizing and warming, because that can be a big issue on the juice feast, is keeping the body temperature up. So I just wanted to say that. What I've found personally—
Hold on. I just want to speak to that for a second. The spices.
Yeah.
Just for me, like I used to love jalapeno in my green juice, and it adds such a nice fire to it. So I figured I'm going to try that this time. And so I started with a third, and it was, I guess I bought 2 jalapenos. I just wanted to test the waters. And one of them was clearly very mild, and the other one was insane, the hottest jalapeno we've ever known. And so like I started with the mild one, a third, and everything was fine. And so I get to the hotter one, I did a half, and the whole body was burning, like my whole colon, like it could not handle it. And it just made me question, like, these spices. Maybe cayenne's much more mild, but something happened and that was a nightmare. I don't think I would do it again. Like, that's how much it hurt.
Were they green?
Yeah. Yes.
So this is the thing that I learned recently about jalapenos, is that when they're green, they're still unripe. And so they have a lot of their protective natural pesticides in them still that can be an irritant. And the reason it's hard to find the red is because all of those are pretty much scooped up by sriracha. Sriracha is made with only red jalapenos. So they're a bit difficult to procure. And indeed, cayenne is much easier and kinder to titrate to your optimal level of spice. So it's a much kinder spice, and I can attest to that. Sometimes even with the red jalapenos, I'm like, oh, that's not spicy at all. Then I'll go into the next one. I'm like, whoa, way too much, way too much. But definitely you don't want to have any kind of green jalapeno. It's not ripe. And the cayenne is a really great way to go. It's also an heirloom spice, and it is alkalizing to the body. It's on the Dr. Sebi approved list of herbs, which I don't go by religiously, but I think it's interesting to curate heirlooms as much as possible into the diet for sure.
Part of me knew that too, because I know the green peppers are unripe. You never eat the green peppers, but then I've never seen a red jalapeno, I don't think. But of course it would be like that. They're green, unripe. Oh, that's what did it.
Yeah,
exactly. I didn't learn that until just like a month ago. What was that, Justin?
Well, I think there's it's just another part of this grocery store where they give us food that's not proper for us to eat, and it's easier to transport unripe things, and peppers are one of those things that they don't ripen after they're picked, but they do last a lot longer in that unripened state. Red bell peppers and green bell peppers, the red ones spoil a lot faster, and they don't give a shit about our health. They just care about selling things. So they're only going to push that sort of variety in the stores. And we have just been accustomed to jalapenos being green. So they don't even really give us the option most of the time, unless you actually go. You could probably find them if you went to an actual Hispanic like grocery store. You might be able to find them. Or even like an Asian grocery store as well. They might sell them there. But yeah, they are a lot harder to find, which is just another reason like we should just be growing peppers ourselves, and then we could let them manifest and grow and to their fullest extent.
Totally. And then speaking to your question about vegetables and fruit, the way I see it is like you're riding a wave. The fruits will flush. So that's like the projecting energy. The vegetables are more astringent. So I actually don't agree with this idea that vegetables stop detox. I think that might be true for like a big salad. But when it comes to juices and the pure liquid essence of the vegetables, for me, I will find that those are more astringently pulling. So if you're too far down the wave and you want to go back up on the crest, you just pull back into like an epic salad juice. So like I'm talking everything from the cherry tomatoes to the basil, to the arugula, the romaine, anything you would put on a salad, the lemons, putting that into a green juice, super astringent. And what I noticed on my juice feast was that I'd go through periods of just going hard on the watermelon because it was my favorite. But then I would have like days in a row where nothing came out of me, but I would kind of feel this emotional weight stir up. And I knew that something wanted to be released. And so I would pull back then to the greens, and those would just really be pulling, and they would remove things that were maybe stuck into a diverticuli pocket that was blown out. And so I kind of see that the fruits are for flushing and the vegetables are for pulling. I don't know if you've had any experience with that.
I didn't notice the difference. I try to pay attention to what am I craving, and every time it's that green juice, the savory, salty goodness, just celery, one whole head of celery, a lemon, and then dark leafy green of your choice. I've been getting, since asparagus is in season, I've been throwing a whole head of that in there, a kidney buster, and a little ginger, and it's just like, it's heavenly. Whereas like I'm almost forcing myself to drink this at times, the watermelon, but I think we have to listen to like, what is our body calling for? I might even switch, because I've been doing like maybe 4 liters of fruit juice and 1 of vegetable. And I think I should be swinging, but part of me, I don't want to lose too much weight. And that's another question I had about like just calories and energy. Like, do we really need so many more calories to, like, people say like, oh, the more you need to eat a ton, like 3,000 calories of fruit and stuff it in there, and or else you won't have any energy. Is that how you feel? Or like, because I know some, like the Free Melon Society, that guy, sometimes he eats 1 meal a day. it's just fruit, and it's not even a lot of fruit. It's 2 melons, it's 2 little cantaloupes, and he's thriving. He's has more energy than any of us. He's hiking, and he's a martial artist. Like, it's amazing. So like, I feel like we need less at some point, but maybe we have to get to a certain level of cleanliness before we can absorb it all and then reduce it to like almost nothing. What do you think?
I think you nailed it on the head, brother. What I have really resonated with the most is Professor Arnold Ehret's perspective that he outlines in the Mucusless Diet Healing System, that the body is an air gas engine. And it's really mostly meant to run, if not exclusively, on air, but it does require the organs and the endocrine glands to be in a certain state to secrete the hormones that act as this natural fuel for the body, that also upgrade the chrism oil. He doesn't talk about that, but I think it absolutely plays into the alkalinity needed for the chrism ascension to activate that fountain flow that regenerates cells in the brain, and also provides you that fat and that satisfaction from the fat, because there is fat in greens, but it needs to be refined, transmuted, and distilled alchemically in the body. But I think that the body is so magnificent, it could run on calories, but I kind of have come to see fruit and all foods as just condensed forms of breath. They're like packets of breath that have been compacted into a bite-sized form. And yes, you can eat that denser form of prana, but it was fed originally by the air, and the air has the carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen that every food you see is made of. That's what watermelon is a combination of those 4 elements. Everything you eat is going to be a combination of those 4 elements. That's the tetragrammaton. That's the, the ATGC in your DNA. It's this 4-ness that we're composed of. But I think the body is so magnificent. This thing can run on meat after things like the deluge for a certain period of time if it needs to. But optimally, even meat could be seen as like condensed, really densified forms of breath, prana, whatever you want to call it, chi. And so I would say that gentleman eating the cantaloupe mostly is probably also doing a lot of breath work. I noticed personally, when I take time, like an hour and a half to 2 hours of breath work, first thing in the day when you're in bed, not even getting out of bed, but doing that deep breath work, you feel so nourished and even hydrated that you don't need to eat nearly as much. But when we're in this system or illusion of rushing around all the time and going here and going there, or being in Wi-Fi fields, or not being grounded, then we kind of need to insulate ourselves more from those energies. But when we put ourselves in the right environment and our organs are ship shape, we can really nourish ourselves with the breath to an extent that we need little to no food, is what I've experienced and observed.
Can you expand on the breath work that you do? Like, is there a protocol that you follow, or have you found any good resources on that? I would love to go into that more.
With pleasure. I just did it with Santos on the beach today. It was so fun. I call it Buddha Bliss breath. So I'm gonna have to get up for this. Okay, so put on my freaking overalls. Okay. So this is tracing the torus field. It's called Buddha Bliss breath. You first do an out breath, tracing the dielectric inertial plane out breath complete at this point. So that's it, Marie. And then moving your hands down, tracing the redshift part of the torus field at the root, not touching the hands, but going up the fun funnel of the fountain. Breathing in at this point of the redshift. So you're tracing the torus field. You go in, and then at the throat, blue shift, you go out. And then you do maximum breath at this position, because this is when you take pressure off the lungs and you can get full expansion. This is also the algae's rune, which means protection. You're protected because this is maximum breath input. So start breathing in, maximum breath up at this point, hold the breath at this point, and then bouncing with the knees, sticking out the tum-tum, dropping the breath down to the bottom of the belly. Imagine like you're pushing into the foot and you're holding it. to the point where you feel comfortable. And then you can do either an ujjayi breath, which is pressuring the back of your throat in like a that's in ujjayi breath is, but you're doing the out ujjayi breath of, or you could do a breath I've never heard about that came into my field, and I call it the Leo breath, because you literally purr like a kitten. Let's see if you can hear it. I literally feel a purr in my heart. So I like to do the Leo breath because I'm a moon in Leo tropically. And so just once again, very simply, it's diurnal plane, tracing, out breath, begin the in breath as the red shift traces, branch the arms out, breathing in still, arms up all the way fully. This is the apex breath. Holding the apex breath, dropping down, pumping out that Buddha belly, holding it. But you also want to be really careful because you can literally faint from this. So you could do it on your knees, you could do it on the sand, you could do it with another person. But I have literally fallen over on the ground before from doing this. So you want to be really careful. I had to brace Santos today because this is actually how I think we detox the vaccine damage that's in the fat tissue of the brain. Because the toxins are stored in fat, the brain is a bunch of fat. And when you're pushing, the whole point of holding the breath is allowing that wave to reach as far out as possible, like you're actually digesting this prana. And you will feel so blissed out. You will have visuals because when you maximize your CO2 extraction, melatonin, when you subtract CO2 from melatonin, it's dimethyltryptamine. So this is how we breathe and create endogenous tryptamines. And this is why people snore. Snoring is ujjayi breath. Your body is literally forcing you. It's literally, sleep is forced breath work. Sleep is forced breath work. So when we do breathe more, we're going to get to a point where we're not even going to need to sleep nearly as much, if at all, anymore. And you have two pumps in the body. One is called the sacral pump. Everyone knows about that. Most people don't know about the occiput, which is a pump inside the brain. I don't know how to explain to activate it, but I can literally flex my cerebrum and it feels like just like a wonderful massage, kind of like teasing apart the brain inside. But just look up occiput and kind of practice opening up your mind. And when you combine that with this breath hold and flex it out into the head, you're getting to those pockets that may not have been touched since you were a wee one. And I've experienced, especially with the chrism oil, because oil both cleans and feeds, that it will literally get to a point where the chrism oil will go to a certain part of the brain and you'll start to expel down one neck at a time, one neck side, and you'll clog up your kidneys even. But along the way, you'll get the most ecstatic visuals. You'll laugh out loud. You might even feel like you're seeing into another plane of existence. And this is the last thing I'm going to say, because when you do raise the chrism oil, one thing I learned is that you can make ormus, which is orbitally rearranged monoatomic element, by adding oil and salt to whatever substance you're looking to make into a monoatomic. And so when we raise the chrism oil and also add these cell salts that the body's craving in all these fruits and vegetables, oil is a hydrocarbon. So the hydrogen gets dried out by the salt, leaving behind that monoatomic carbon form. And carbon is what forms diamond. This is how you create the diamond body and the diamond mind first. This is the helm of salvation. This is one of the many levels of allegorical meanings. This is the mystical interpretation. And it is that monoatomic carbon that is needed to create the lattice structure of the third eye, of that pineal part of the third eye. And once that lattice, pinecone lattice, is created and those calcite crystals are perfected, because calcite crystals are in the pineal gland, that is literally the physics and chemistry of seeing into ether realm. Either realm is ether realm. Ether is either. So yeah, that's where the breath work will take you. And that's why it is so powerful. And that's why you will have moments of kind of blacking out. Because like Dr. Sebi said, Dr. Sebi did, I think 40 days on urine looping. And he had a moment where he had a whole day where he was blind because all the mucus from the brain was just going down his eyes, going down and being processed by the body. So the breath work is super powerful. Highly recommend you don't do it alone. And if you do, make sure you're on a very soft surface.
Thanks for that. Can I just chime in real quick on Ujjayi breath? Because we do some classes, there's some classes too on our YouTube channel with just yoga and breath work that are a little maybe less intense than what Amber just shared with us. But Ujjayi breath, Amber, I always knew it to be in and out through the nose. See?
That's how I learned it, now that you say that, for sure, out through the nose, for sure.
So it was creating that internal fire. It's different than diaphragmatic breathing because it's all actually happening up here and it's super audible. It's like there's a straw. So in the classes for yoga, for example, we would do any upward moving gesture is an inhale. So when and I know that the days that I give myself a good hour on my mat, even 20 minutes, whoa, the energy, in the first, if you just do sun salutations, the first 16, 20 minutes, it's 142 movements in 16 minutes. So and every breath for that. So there's one breath for one move. So someone do the math. I don't know, 600 breaths, something, conscious breaths is transformational. Energy wise, and so much more centered, so many less cravings, so much more present, less triggered, less just we were talking earlier about the frequency, so much easier to stay in that frequency that healing requires, that vibe. That's what I want to say. I love you, Amber. I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah, I've noticed. Am I muted? No. On this juice fast, I find myself taking these almost forced deep breaths, like like it's my body's like, hey, you better start breathing, buddy. Like you need this. And I was into Wim Hof for a little bit, but just like what Remembrancer just said, like you can faint. That kind of like scares me away from it because I've seen some things where like they're doing these breathing exercises, and one guy, I saw this documentary, I think it was by Yes Theory on Wim Hof. You can watch it on YouTube. And so they're all laying down doing the breath work, and the one guy is like having a seizure or something after the breath work, like something, maybe it was beneficial. It just looked like, oh my God, I'm not doing that. And he brought him back and everything was cool. But yeah, some people were just giggling and laughing and hallucinating probably. But yeah, the breath, it's so important. I'm not a master on it. I don't have much to add. I think breathing in the city, maybe not. We could be breatharians in nature. I don't know, but a city breatharian, that might be rough.
It's great to supplement your breath with essential oils. And I'll say absolutely, I have had seizures doing this breath work, and I'm really glad you brought that up. Because I actually grew up having seizures and epileptic spells as a child. And what I've learned is that it's actually toxins inhibiting the sodium uptake channels in the brain. And that has to do with toxicity in the brain. And so this is exactly what happens. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the way to cure vaccine damage in the brain. And the seizure is a side effect of this coming out of the body. It's also, maybe for men who have been circumcised, this can actually be a recall back to that moment of being clamped on that device and then having the foreskin surgically removed without anesthetics. That gets stored deep in the subconscious, and it's paired with that time that you were vaccinated, because the vaccines are kind of like the sulfur. The sulfur kind of keeps in all the parasites, yeast, fungi, mold, bacteria, like a rubber coating to all the crap. The vaccine is like a plaster on all the trauma of the sonograms, of the bright lights in the emergency room, of being slapped on the butt, when you come into this world, or being snipped and having the most sensitive part of your body mutilated. And I know that happens to women in some parts of the world too. So this is not just a thing for men. But I think I think the seizures are both related to the trauma of probably shaking from how bad that fucking hurt. I'm sorry to cuss, but it really it's an intense thing to talk about. And it can also be from these toxins being processed by the body, and the body just it's probably literally trying to shake it out and try to shake it loose. But I've absolutely experienced that. Not as much anymore though, and this is why I think it actually works. Is because if it was bad, I'd keep having the seizures, but that doesn't happen anymore. Not nearly as much. I don't remember the last time it did. It's much more of like this bliss. The bliss can be kind of overwhelming, and I'll feel like I'm falling sometimes, but it's not the full on like clinching up. But you're absolutely right. And I do think this is the best way to clean the brain from that kind of vaccine damage, for sure.
That's fascinating with the as a victim of circumcision myself. That's such a traumatic experience. I'm so angry that happened to me. I wish, because they cut me good, and I can feel the skin is tight. They underestimated my potential. They didn't leave enough, and I grew past it, and we're stretching things, and it's not it ain't right. So that trauma, that's not good. And that the head's not supposed to be exposed, and that rubs against underwear, and it's just I'm numb down there, but it's still way too pleasurable. It's not that bad. I can still but yeah, I can just imagine that trauma. And if they Bill Gates me right after that to drive it in there with emotions, that's a whole new level, Remembrancer. Emotional vehicles to take. Wow. So got to get that out.
I cannot believe you just made me laugh about circumcision. That is just a whole new level. A whole new level, for sure. Wow. And I resonate with that anger, brother. I felt that for a long time. I don't know how this is going to come off, but I've actually I've had moments where I've seen my past lives, and it's very clear that I was a seafarer, maybe a pirate even. And what do pirates love to do? They love to rape and pillage. And rape literally means to seize and take away. And that's what the circumcision is. So I actually think, because this whole learning about the circumcision, it can be a real danger to feel like this happened to you instead of happened for you. And the way I've come full circle is well, maybe I had a past life where I violated someone else through rape. And this is a way to clear that karmic debt. I don't have to be angry about it in that way. But if you are watching this and you are 18 or younger, look into the legal code of your state. Because I know where I was born in Massachusetts, this is so twisted, but until the age of 18, you can sue them for circumcising you. But after 18, yeah, no more. So if that is some kind of remedy you want to seek, great. If not, I recommend maybe doing a past life progression or just meditations and see, is there a medicine in that experience of clearing out some kind of karmic debt? And I'm not saying that's happened for anybody else, but I think for me, that could be true. And that's a way where I don't feel like a victim anymore. And I feel like it happened for me. But I do resonate with that anger. But I also know, some men, they get so angry listening to this, they commit suicide. I've read stories about that. People making documentaries and just dwelling on it. And I think it can be turned into something that, empowers you even. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, beautifully said. I mean, I think it's so important to remember as we uncover all of these uncomfortable truths, that It's not the realization is not to further push us down into this victim mentality, because everything truly does happen for us. And even if it's hard to see in that particular moment, just think of the catalyst that provides. If it does inspire that anger in that particular moment, don't hold on to that anger, but transmute that anger, alchemize it, and use it in a way to where it's energizing, and it drives into a spur of either personal healing or distributing that information in a way that's enlightening for others, or whatever else. But when we take that approach to any sort of stimuli that we're experienced with, we take away that victim mentality and realize that victimhood is false. There is no such thing as a victim in this reality. It's all divinely orchestrated, and it's all perfect. It's all perfect exactly as it needs to be. So I'm really glad you said that. Just wanted to add that a little bit. Hey, Marie, welcome back.
Yeah. That damn Mexican internet.
Yeah. It's always good.
In and out, in and out. I don't know where you guys went with this, but just if I could just add one little bit to the circumcision conversation, and just remembering when my son was born, and the OB-GYN walked in and was like, okay, so I'll be able to do this. She called it a circ tomorrow afternoon. And like, just as if there wasn't a conversation as if we were going to, it was just like, I'll be here tomorrow afternoon to do that. And Danny and I were like, yeah, we're not going to do that. And she literally, yeah, she paused, because Danny isn't. And I guess in Europe, it's not as common to do circumcisions, apparently. But she turned and she looked at us and she was like, that is really cool. And I'll never forget that, because not many parents had given it more thought. It was just, that's what we're doing tomorrow. So she had just assumed that we were subscribed to that.
Might have lost her again, but that's amazing. That's amazing to hear. And and that example, like the conversation around circumcision and what that inspired, was a catalyst for that particular nurse or the OBGYN to have that realization, and maybe transcend that, whatever that layer of the enslavement comes from, creating that dark ritual so that we can learn from it and rise above it. And it's all just this beautiful learning process. But you cut off a little bit, Maria. I don't know if you had finished what you were saying.
Well, just that, the same thing with the vaccinations with our children. I mean, we haven't vaccinated our children for anything. And they, initially when the child comes out, it's just within the first year, our vet, oh my God, our pediatrician there were like 80 vaccinations. And then after the first year checkup, we took Ruby, and it was with our first daughter, and they had said, okay, well, she doesn't need the ones for the first year anymore, because obviously she didn't get them, so she's fine. And so now they wanted to give us the second, whatever vaccinations that they were going to give. And we said we were declining. And the pediatrician, this is what he said to us, said, I'm really sorry, but I have to release you, because we all, we have to vaccinate. Like, this is what we do here. But he said to us, and he looked at us, and he was so kind. He said, if I wasn't a doctor, I wouldn't have vaccinated my children. So we had some really good experiences with those cats that are really in it, but they're so deep in it, but he released us, but he said to us, basically, you're doing the right thing. So.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to your conversation about you being a button presser, but you do it in such a beautiful way that, like, you gave him an opportunity. You pushed a button and you were like, hey, there are those of us who are breaking away from that idea, and you can too. You don't have to be bound to that. And who knows what kind of seed that planted and what it might have grown into later on. So thank you for your service. Thank you for doing that.
Thanks, Justin. I hope so. It's a big one with the children and what happens, these first 7 years, but even the first 3 months. And now all of us as adults having to clean up so much. And it's not that we do it regretfully, but let's save generations from having to go this deep into this. So it's just so much more natural to just be like that, to be like the raw beings that we are.
Yeah, your kids are going to be so healthy. That's amazing. I wasn't expecting the reaction to both the circumcision lady and the doctor. It's like that's so amazing when these people like they get it behind the scenes. They're kind of forced to like, we have to follow protocol here, but like I'm with you. And that's amazing. I wish I don't have no idea how many vaccines I got. I think we got one in high school, and that's when all my symptoms started. It could have been related, and then I needed like surgery on a hernia, and like my life fell apart. It could have been from that. I don't even know what it was, but oh, Bill Gates, he loves us so much. We love you too, buddy.
What an asshole.
Hmm.
Yeah, sorry. This is one of my, I don't even think he's a person. I don't even think he's a man. He's got to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, I know a couple people, like my mom knows like she's not going to get this, you know what, virus vaccine, like, but her friend is. Like I sent him a bunch of stuff, like Canadian doctors speaking out about it and like proof. And it's like there was a little checklist, like once you get the vaccine, do you still have to wear a mask? Yes. Can you travel still? Like no, but like you get nothing. It does nothing, and it seems to make you sicker against any other illness. It's like, but he still got it, and I was like, no, why? I don't get it. It's just one day those will disappear. But yeah, if we can go back to the diet talk, I do have another question for Remembrancer.
Ready,
You
bro.
spoke about oil being, and I've always thought like oil has its own purpose in detox. I feel like it does something different in a good way, like it surrounds toxins maybe and brings them out. But most people say like fat would halt the detox process. What do you think fat's role is? Like I'm right now, John Rose says to have a tablespoon of flaxseed oil with your juice fast. So I've been doing that, and I seem to be breaking out more in acne when I do that. And I've always had that connection when I'm on this like high sugar fruits and I add in too much fat, I get all this acne. And I think it's because like in my mind, it's like my blood sugar is now not clearing fast enough and I'm feeding the candida, and that's what I think. But could it be detox, or like what are your thoughts on that? And
So absolutely, for men, flax is ideal. For women, hemp is ideal in the juice feast. And its function is to help the gallbladder flush and get out, gallstones, or just keep that pipeline lubricated to create a healthy amount of bile for your body. And a huge mistake is to combine fats with sugars, because that is an absolute recipe for feeding candida, yeast, fungi, mold, bacteria. So I would really reserve adding the oil in the juice feast with those green juices. And my personal favorite combination, which I haven't heard anyone do, is to juice sauerkraut. Oh, I'm just getting shivers talking about it. I love me some sauerkraut. It is so good. And when you're in this flush state, you're also flushing a lot of the gut microbiome out. So it's good to have the sauerkraut in to replenish those healthy bacteria in your body. And the sauerkraut with like a salad juice and some oil, that's a recipe for some yum yum. Because, when you have a salad, you'll add a little bit of fat, and that's all good. But you would never add, oil to watermelon or orange juice. It just sounds bad, right? That's because the sweets and fats no go together. They do not go together. So yeah, I would just say its function is to clean the liver gallbladder, which cherry juice is also the king at. So if you can get cherry juice, that's also prime for the liver gallbladder system. But the oil is good for the liver gallbladder, and it's also just kind of grounding. It gives you some nice weight and groundedness, which can be a difficult thing on the juice feast. But yeah, I would say that's the function, and definitely want to avoid combining fats and sugars. It's not a good combo. And it's also in a lot of food combining charts, you'll see those do not go together.
Yeah, so there's a lot of conflicting information about the fermented foods, and using salt to create sauerkraut and pickles and things of that nature. So I'm wondering if you could expand more on that in general. I know there's some people in the chat asking about it, and I personally, I've gone away from sauerkraut and pickles and things of that nature, just to try and stay away from the salt. But I love them. Like, I love their taste, and I love their flavor. So I would love to, to kind of hear more of your thought process behind that.
For sure. You know, I agree with a lot of what you said, and I don't remember the last time I had sauerkraut, and I do typically avoid it because it does have the salt, but you can make your own salt-free sauerkraut with cayenne or chili powder. In terms of the fermented food, I do think that the gut is meant to naturally ferment a little bit of foods because it does create the gut bacteria. So in a stage in the juice feast where things might be flushing really quickly through the system, and you're not, you know, masticating them into a form where they're going to sit a little bit and create that healthy culture, I would say sauerkraut juice could be a tolerable fermented food because it's also going to go very quickly through. It's not going to stagnate and overly ferment. I think there's a balance to be had. But I would say absolutely ideally, make sauerkraut with just chili powder or cayenne pepper and make it salt-free. I haven't found that. It's the kind of thing where you might have to make it yourself.
Is that same process of just massaging the cabbage with the cayenne pepper, and it creates that same sort
Yeah.
of...
From the recipes I've seen is you basically, you know, chop a cabbage and then you massage in a mixture of chili or cayenne pepper in lime juice. You don't want to use vinegar or anything. And you just massage it and then let it sit in a mason jar with a fermenting aerator in the fridge. And it's just as good, if not better. I've never tried it. I've only read about it. I read about it a lot because I was trying to get those ingredients in Nicaragua. But I couldn't find a decent cabbage that I trusted. But when I find that trusted cabbage, I'm doing it.
Nice. Yeah, I love the process of making sauerkraut. So I'm gonna try that for sure. It's a fun one. Yeah, and I found you don't even have to get the special jars or anything. You just have to crack them every day or so, and you can do it easy just with some mason jars and some lid.
Awesome. One pro tip I want to interject on that subject is that with these mason jars, you got to get rid of those metal lids. Anyone who's had a mason jar, you see how quickly those things rust, decay. You do not want that in your body. Get silicone lids, or what is it, a plastic lid? Yep. No judgment. No, that's a better that's a better solution than the metal.
Silicone sounds better, yeah.
Yeah, but so you know, that's the better. The best is the silicone lids, and it fits on with the metal toppers, but none of the metal touches it. So really, if you're doing the mason jars, you want to get your silicone lid game on stat.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm with you, Justin, on the no salt. I think it's an addiction, and I was having, like, because keto, they say you have to up your salt to insane amounts, and it makes no sense. Like, they say literally 2 teaspoons of salt is what you should be having, and I was like, half a teaspoon to my meal was over salted. Like, it was insane. It's like, how do you put it in your water and you're just choking down salt water, and it's like, how? It makes no sense for the human body. And even on high carb, it's just so addictive. Like, if you just cut out salt, you'll be so much more hydrated. My lips were always cracking. They're finally like starting to heal. It's taken a while on this juice fast, drinking nothing but juice. It's taken a while just to flush the salt out and rehydrate my lips. It's like, it's just so harsh. And like, I've known it for years. That was like one of the first things I learned. Like, it can rust the metal off your car. Like, just look at all the cars when we're shoveling the snow and we put salt on the roads, and like, all that's from, like, it can corrode metal. It's like, what do you think it's doing inside your body? And seawater would dehydrate you so fast, but adding it without the water, that'll hydrate me somehow. And so I think it's a poison. And I know some, like David Wolf, he's like, sodium's the key to life. You just need a good salt, Celtic sea salt. And I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure Remembrancer can touch on this a little more, but there are certain cell salts that we do need, but they're all bioavailable from foods. And so I know Santos and Remembrancer are huge advocates of getting those cell salts because there are 12 of them and they all match up with different zodiac signs. And depending on when you're born, we actually, just based on the 9-month pregnancy period, we have at least three cell salts that were lacking from the times that, that we weren't in the womb to receive those cell salts. So those it's a different form of salt. It's not necessarily just the sodium. I mean, it has sodium in each one, but um, so that would be something to potentially supplement. And then I've been experimenting a lot more since Remembrancer suggested it, but with like dulse and seaweed and things of that nature. So whenever I get that, because I still have, I still love salts, but I've completely cut it out of my diet. I don't do any just salt. But whenever I do get those cravings, I just sprinkle in some dulse flakes and get it that way. Which has been, I've seen a huge improvement because I had that same sort of issue where my lips would crack all the time, even after I did my first juice feast in December and then went straight back to raw. Um, I was eating a lot of avocados and I love salt. So I would just douse them with salt but I did notice my lips were cracking all the time. Um, and that hasn't happened since I cut out the salt and I've just been using the dulse flakes instead. But you still get that same, just a little bit of satiation for that craving. So that's my plan, is just not do any of the actual salt, but just have the seaweed as that supplementation.
Yeah, I think that's probably why I love that green juice so much, with an entire head of celery in it. It's a lot of sodium and it tastes so salty. I think that would get rid of most salt cravings, just having that. But yeah, seaweed too. I have a bag, dulse, in the fridge. I can't have it for a long time, but it's in there waiting for me. Does Remembrancer want to talk about salt? What are his thoughts on salt?
Yeah, if you could talk about salt and then cell salts too, if you could tie in all of that, that'd be great.
Un placer, amigos. I would really recommend getting a chart. They're free online. You just search the internet, cell salt food list. See which cell salts are in which foods, and just go straight to the source. You don't need any middlemans. I think things like Schussler cell salts are great for people who might feel like they're in a rush and they don't want to do all these calculations. But for people who are interested in making this a lifestyle that you can do anywhere, you can find all of these cell salts in a prepackaged, beautiful, natural form in fruits or vegetables or herbs. So just look at the lists, look at when you were born, and look at the zodiacal signs tropically. 3 on down the list. So, as a Gemini, I look at the cell salts for Cancer, Leo, Virgo, and a little bit of Gemini as well, because I was born in like the middle of Gemini, so I don't have the full expression of that salt. So some people will say, like I just said 3, I meant to say 4, because unless you're born on the 22nd, you're going to need a little bit of that salt that's in your own sign. So you're looking for 4 salts. Look at the salt for the sign you were born in, and then the 3 after that when you were not in the womb, getting those naturally. And you'll likely see that you're attracted to those cell salts. Like I'm really attracted to coconut, and coconut is one of those cell salts that I naturally don't have a lot of in my body. And so you'll find that your tastes are very much affected by those deficiencies. So I would just get a list. I would both get the zodiacal image that you can find for free online. It's the cover on William Casey's The Cell Salts of Salvation. And it'll tell you each zodiacal sign and that specific cell salt. See where your deficiencies are, and then get a list of what cell salts are within each food, and curate it that way into your diet. Very practical, no fuss, not complicated, and very necessary for sure. And even if you have You can even diagnose this by, like, if you have a bone deficiency, that's the cell salt for Capricorn. So even if you do have some of that, like you were in the womb during Capricorn, you still might have a deficiency in that. Your body will tell you what it needs based on the symptoms. So you can see charts on cell salt deficiencies and how that manifests in diseases. And then look at them in foods, and then look at the zodiacal organization of those salts. And between those three, it's a very simple way to customize your diet and make sure you're getting all the salts that you need. And then, of course, I think that the 13th cell salt is both in the chrism oil, and I think it's also in urine. You know, it's so funny how, like, urine therapy sounds like you are in therapy. You're in therapy. Are you in therapy? I'm in urine therapy. And I met a bro here in Puerto Morelos, and he told me he looked into this old alchemical tome, and he said that he read you can literally make gold out of evaporating your urine and making a salt. The book literally gives you instructions on how to evaporate the urine. Urine begins with UR. The city of Ur. Ur is also a word for gold. And the alchemical book was literally about how to mint gold from your own urine. And that got me thinking, like, man, what if this whole, you know, Peter Piper piping of, like, the septic system is actually taking all of our waste matter to these large factories? What if they're just literally minting gold from our urine? Wouldn't that be the funniest thing in the world? But that's to say, I think the best way to get that 13 cell salt is the urine therapy and the chrism oil. And once you balance that with the 12, like I said earlier, I think that's the way you create the immaculate ormus in your brain. And that is the chemical foundation for higher states of consciousness and seeing into counter space or the astral plane or whatever you want to call it. So crazy.
I've never even heard, like, those theories, the zodiac and the cell salts. It's like, wow, I'm still on very basic levels, like calories, sugar, fat, minerals. Like, there's such levels to nutrition. Wow, we're in for a treat. I wish we were taught this stuff.
Santos Bonacci's work at all?
Yeah, I've watched a bunch of his talks, mostly on the flat earth.
Oh yeah, there it is.
That's my mouse pad now. But yeah, he's fascinating. Him and Charlie.
Yeah.
But does he do, like, nutrition lectures? Does he have?
He talks very much about the importance of veganism karmically, and that raw diet is optimal. He's the one who actually inspired me to do a juice feast. He did about 60 days, as I recall, and experienced amazing benefits in his body. So he's very much focused on the importance of diet, both on a physical level and a spiritual level and a mental level. So he talks about it quite often. He's very adamant about getting people to go vegan and improve their karma.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Like, this is the first time where it all clicked, and I wanted to be vegan for all reasons, for my health. Like, I actually believe it now. I believe it's the healthiest. And also, I've already known, obviously, I could never kill an animal. Who could do that?
Yeah, rough.
So it's like, yeah, I'm not living that life anymore.
I think what you just said, Kasey, was really powerful, that, you know, when we hear about, like, the cell salts and the zodiac, you said, I wish we would have learned this stuff. And that's something I'm really passionate about too. And as we continue to learn and making sure that children are raised learning this information, so that we're not like, wait, what? You know, that's what I think a lot of us, happened to a lot of us. Wait, what? I mean, we just found out that salt wasn't good for us, you know? You know, and I noticed with my son too, he really wants salt. Like, he's already, like, having a salt addiction that we're trying to, like, you know, work with him on. But that's an important aspect of this. Like, why weren't we taught this? What were we taught?
Yeah, it'd be so much nicer to have like that head start where we're just like miracle beings from the beginning and just being nurtured and taught like you create this life, little Johnny, like you can do whatever you want. And like we're just taught like, oh, lawyers are the best job and go to school, and just high school was just all brainwashing. And I don't remember anything practical, just some math that I can now calculate how expensive fruit is. Thank you for that. $20 for a watermelon. Oh, well, I saved nothing. So it's like, yeah, it's so, we could be so much more powerful, but this is where we are right now. It's like we got to overcome a bunch of darkness, and then, all right, and then we do better for the next generation and just the miracle beings that will follow. I can't wait to see those kids.
Yeah. I think it's the kind of thing where it's going to take probably 7 generations to reach the apex being expression, because a lot of these curses that we're inheriting and that we have inherited, let's say, and that we are expelling, from what I've been reading in the work of Samael Aun Weor, these things can last for like 3 to 4 generations. So I think it's important to have like a long-term perspective. We're getting into some amazing information, but when we're back to the 6th sense of intuition and the 7th sense of telepathy, and then on up to the higher ones of telekinesis and all that stuff, we're not even going to recognize the language that is being used. It's going to be so unfathomable to where we currently are. It'll look probably bizarre. So I agree with you. This is why my whole life right now is studying the work of Rudolf Steiner, Waldorf schools, these geniuses that have looked at the system and making it holistic. And I really think that, the natives had it right, where they didn't have a need for a school, a pharmacy, a grocery store, police, a bank, because it's all syncretized into the lifestyle. So I think it's not even going to look like, how can we reform education? Because for a long time I was going at that route, like, how can we reform education and recreate schools? It's like, no. How can we make a lifestyle that is so perfect, pure, and distilled? It is providing the finances, the education, the protection, the nourishment, all of the basic necessities and more. And I think ultimately that's going to look like going back to the garden. I mean, that's how all great stories are, right? They end as they begin. I think we're all right now in our own rooms with our own blenders, being very inefficient with like our own electricity. But, I think it's going to look like very soon we're going to get more interested in sites like woofing.org and Workaway and start to gravitate towards stewardship and having that relationship with the earth where it's like, no, I don't need to go outside and ground. I've been grounding all day, because I'm made to do that. And I really think it's going to be this lifestyle that is syncretically, singularly inclusive of all these needs that, it's just going to be the answer to a lot of these questions, like, what kind of government do we want, or like structure do we want? What kind of banking system do we want? What kind of education? It's all going to be factored in to the virtues.
Yeah, and communities. And I remember reading something a long time ago about school, how like in the old days, everybody's just together in families in a big community, and it's the elders with the parents and the children, and they're all interacting daily. Like the young ones are learning from the grandparents, and the grandparents are learning from the young ones, especially. It's like, oh, look at that youthful spirit. And then in school, it's all segmented. 3-year-olds, 6-year-olds, you're all together, same level, like you're not really learning. And then there's the one teacher. But yeah, we need more community, just families together. We can build it. We can build it.
I mean, it's happening. I just want to just real quick, with the 7 generations aspect, like, and our responsibility is to be the first ones, and when I see my kids and I see what's happening with our little community here, and already it's like, it's fascinating to see that this is starting. I thought it was something in the future. I really did. And then this week it really landed for me, like, this is happening, You know, we just had another beautiful couple that's in Costa Rica right now talking to this morning that are going to be here in a couple weeks. So it's like, and then another family from Michigan coming this Thursday, and you know, Eugene and Claudia here. So it's starting to happen, and we're like, okay, now we're going to kind of figure out how do we operate. And I love that I haven't made juice personally in weeks. Like, they're making the juice. I open the fridge, there's big jugs of orange juice and, you know, coconuts in there all the time. Like, and that's what you're talking about in terms of like, we're all with our own blenders and juicers. We just learning how to connect with each other and how to love each other, how to support each other, and how to give each other space, because we need that too. And as long as we have that foundation and of like, this is what we're up to, we're trying to manifest the garden, or we're getting back home to where we came from. Once that agreement's in place, then it really is pulling in the right groups, and the right people are showing up at the right times. And we don't have to do a lot of that. We're just kind of watching it happen. So I just wanted to add that, because if I think, oh my God, in 7 generations, I get a little bit like, but then I go, well, wait a second, let's just stay present. It's happening. And yes, it's very likely that's going to take a long time to get this whole thing shifted. But what we do have is the power to shift our own realities. And we're doing that, all of us, every single one of us. And we're starting to really feel the benefits of coming home to a brothers and sister type relationships with each other that we've really missed. That's been what's been absent for so many of us, is that we haven't had the support and the love. Like, look what's happening right now in my life. Just look what's happening. Look what's happening. Thank you so much. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
my little
beautiful.
man, Adam. Let's say hi
I
to
love you, Adam. I love you. I love Hello.
Hi. You missed us?
I miss you every day, monsieur. How are you?
You give us a
Yeah. Yeah.
we're doing it for these guys, and all of you guys are their teachers, their examples. Like, you know, they're telling the kids, no, we just eat fruit. Like, they're teaching the kids how to regroup. And Amber, you guys, you laid a whole encyclopedia on us that we're still sifting through when you were here with us, and we love you so much for that. And that's what this is sharing our information and doing it right for them and teaching them. And Claudia said it perfectly. She's like, yeah, she said, when I'm with your kids, it helps me to stay in my right mind.
These are yucky.
So I don't want to take too much of energy from the show and stuff, but it's supportive to us when we serve and when we teach the truth, and we help them to embody this.
Did you buy those?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, I'm going to mute myself. I love you.
It's for us, Mommy. It's for us.
Yes.
It's for us.
It's so perfect. It's so perfect. Yeah, and you know, it's really important to remember too that it just keeps getting better. So we get to be the beginning, we get to be the starting, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. And you know, not getting lost in the 7 generation thing, because Remembrancer was just indicating that's the apex. That's how long it's going to take to get to that highest peak. But every step along the way is going to get better and better and better and better, and we're just going to expand and grow, and it's so beautiful to see. It's so beautiful to see.
Oh.
But yeah, Kasey, did you have any more questions or sort of practical things you want to get into? You're muted.
Part of me knew that. Kidney filtration. I just have a couple observations to share. I noticed like I was eating the starch-based vegan OMAD and I'm filtering every day. It's like, well, look at all this sediment. I'm detoxing. As soon as I hit the juice fast, gone. Like, it's just clear liquids now. And that's interesting. And I had some fun with my girlfriend, and I did not go to the end. You all know what we're talking about here. And I always do that. I never release anymore. I'm just trying to do the right thing. But that next day I saw sediment. So that was interesting. There's a couple of observations, but I feel like if we eat these bad foods, then our kidneys are going to get rid of it. Maybe we just don't release that much through the kidneys. Like, why aren't I seeing massive amounts of sediment now on this juice fast? Should be pouring out. I've seen Dr. Morris just shared a story where he's working with a kid who had vaccine damage, and he peed out this black stuff. And on that day, that was the day he recognized his mother for the first time. Like, he was autistic from the vaccines, and he peed out the black stuff. And then he's like, he's coming back now. It's like, I believe it. Just why aren't I seeing that sediment there?
Yeah, that's something I can relate with too. It's been something where I've been a little frustrated with the lack of sediment in my urine. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, Remembrancer, on the sediment release.
Indubitably, the kidney filtration is necessary. And it was my goal to do that for quite some time. I didn't get it on the 144-day juice feast. When I got it was when I was about 6 months in Nicaragua, eating mostly watermelon. My diet was basically a lot of watermelon, rambutan, oranges, a lot of passion fruit, some coconut. But it was mostly when I was on the watermelon eating it, especially if you can get watermelon rind that is like crispy and crunchy and digestible. Not every watermelon you can eat the skin, but if you can, I highly recommend it. So for me, it was really eating the watermelon that got the filtration. And it just kind of came out of nowhere, but I think that was like 2 years after wanting to get my kidneys to filter. It took me 2 years to get it to filter. And that was about a year and a half into raw. And because I basically started doing raw. The juice feast is like when I started going fully raw, because after I did the juice feast, I didn't even want the cooked anymore. So I would just say it is a long-term thing for some people. I know it was for me to get that filtration, but once you do, it's like this gelatinous, soupy, almost like oily, it's sticking to itself, lugubrious, outside the normal consistency of a liquid that you see. And what you're talking about earlier, Kasey, about some of that sediment is, I think I've observed that as well, is that you don't have to go to that point of the no return and the release, and you can still have what almost looks like it's just kind of flaky. It's flaky. It's kind of different than what I see through kidney filtration. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I know it's not sperm or semen, because that is much more oily and different in texture. So I don't know what that is. I'm something I want to learn more about. I'm kind of reading Montauk Chia's book, and I don't agree with everything he says. He says it's okay to eat animals without a certain amount of chakras. I don't think that's optimal at all, to eat any animal, obviously. And then, he's also advocates that there's an occasional release that is also healthy to have. Again, I don't think that's optimal, but I'm almost wondering if he's talking about this other kind of, maybe it's a byproduct of making the sexual fluid. I'm not sure, but, just to add to the mystery, I guess, just to kind of validate that I've experienced that as well. I don't know what it is. I don't think it is kidney filtration, but yeah, kidney filtration can definitely take quite a long time. And on the video I did with Justin a while back, there's that great video on YouTube for free by, I think his name is Mark James Gordon, 5-minute about how to get kidney filtration. And watermelon is one of the supreme foods to activate that for sure. And that's what got it for me, but it took 2 years.
Yeah, it's just weird because like when I'm eating junkier food, like it seems like they're filtering, like I see the sediment, or is that something different? Like it's just maybe heavier byproducts of the food because it's like it's coming out. I was adding beets into my starch meal and I'm like, oh, beets are the key. And I'm just thinking like I'm releasing all this sediment, but not when I go on raw for some reason.
It may be the difference between fresh lymphatic waste and old lymphatic waste. So we might be having some proteins in the diet and we say, oh, I'm filtering, but it's like, no, actually you just ate some like coconut meat, which is heavy, dense protein, and that's getting broken down. But there's still like, up in your lymphatic system or somewhere else in the body, there's old stagnant lymph that still needs to be broken into. And I think that a lot of that old stagnant stuff, it can really only be moved with breath. That makes a lot of sense, actually, because when I was in Nicaragua, I was doing the most breath work I've ever done, like routinely 2 hours, first thing in the day, breath work, best. I mean, it kind of sounds extravagant, like who's got 2 hours to just breathe? But it's like, when you start to think about it, it's like, who doesn't have 2 hours to just breathe? Like, it's the most vital function of the human body. I'm 33 and I'm just learning how to breathe properly. I still have to remind myself to take deep breaths. Like that should tell you everything you need to know about how important the breath work is and how deep in the consciousness of, holding your breath is. And I personally, I've done the Wim Hof method. I've had great experiences with that. But, like everything is reversed, they say, don't hold your breath. I hold my breath and I love it. And the Hindus say that you come here with a certain amount of oil and a certain amount of breaths. And whichever one runs out first, that's when your time's up. And so I take really deep, long breath holds. I try to get to like 1 breath per minute, 2 breaths per minute. And that just makes me feel really good, really peaceful. I've never done heroin, but my facial expressions and just like this kind of like the simultaneous feeling of lucidity, levity, and gravity just permeating and rippling through my being. And my facial expressions, I'm like, oh, that kind of like looks how I've seen the caricature of a heroin addict, just like, oh my gosh, like really deep, undeniable bliss. And that usually comes in at about the 45 minute mark. Like it takes me 45 minutes. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Marie. It takes a while just to warm up the body to receive and open up and relax. And it's like, okay, I can surrender to this. I don't have to do anything except breathe. I'm going to open up. Now I'm going to open up. And I think this is why, all pretty much religious traditions, the moment of enlightenment is with a tree. Trees are the master teachers of breath. They are the masters of breath. Buddha had an epic lecture where he just was silent and held up a flower. And then one monk got up and just started laughing and like attained enlightenment. I'm guessing he realized, like, my brain is a flower. I'm just flowering open. Flowers are the masters of breath. As we really surrender to that breathing process, we can open up and let in the light. And I've experienced it takes about 45 minutes for that process to happen.
That's fascinating. I would breathe right now if my bladder wasn't so full. So I'm going to just go take care of that, make some gold.
Beautiful.
Yeah, curious, Remembrancer, with speaking of urine and sediments, do you distinguish between the urine that you're going to consume based on the amount of sediment that you're producing, or do you pay attention to that? Like, is that something you consider?
Oh yeah, if I'm producing sediment, it's a no-go on drinking your flow. It's just not happening. There's no reason to cycle acid back into the body. No reason at all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That being said, if you're blocked up and your lymph isn't filtering and you're not having things like herbs and spices, like even, I like cayenne, I like rosemary, I like sage, but if I'm eating spice foods, that just kills the flavor. I don't care how delicious, I don't care if I make the perfect tahini sauce. My urine is going to not taste good. It's going to taste weird. But if you're just on pure fruits, like it can taste like movie theater popcorn butter flavor. If you're just on the coconut, because coconut is flavored with the coconut oil pretty much. And mango, it tastes like mango. You know, if you're really pure in the mono meal, that is just the prime fuel for urine therapy. So for me, it's all about the taste, and it's all about not having any lymph inside of it, because I can't see logical reason to recycle that.
Yeah. So do you have any sort of is it just kind of like, you play it by ear? If you've been eating in a certain way and it tastes and smells attractive, then you go for it? Or do you set more intention with it? It's like, no, I want to incorporate more urine therapy, so I'm going to shift my diet and then go that route. Like, what's your kind of strategy with that?
Yeah, so one of the things is how hydrated do I feel? If I feel really dehydrated, urine is the most hydrating thing in the world that I've experienced. It's an absolute miracle of hydration. I think it's even more hydrating than watermelon, and that's saying something, because watermelon is like 10 times more hydrating than water. So for me, it's really about where I'm at. If I'm traveling a lot, I might not feel like doing that. I mean, sometimes if I am traveling, like the highest I've ever been was when I was drinking my own urine on an airplane doing breath holds. It was like I did a whippet. I don't know if you guys ever done whippet back in your scoundrel days, but I did. And it was like the hormones from my own golden nectar just like jacked up into my brain and just released me out of body for a second. And I was also high in the air. So I was like double the most high I've ever been. And that was on the urine. And sometimes it is actually great for travel. Like if you don't want to eat, or like you're in the airport, you're like, all these waters say they have salt in them. That doesn't sound like a good idea. Who wants to put salt in water? Maybe I'll just drink my own urine because it's free and it's abundant. And the more you drink it, the more it comes out. So, party. But for me, it really is about how does it taste? If it doesn't taste good, forget it. Not going to happen. And if I want to be really, it's also a matter of like, if I'm coming out of being like very grounded and I want to get more cerebral and Geminian precision with my words and articulation and get lighter, I absolutely go to the urine. It's absolutely great. If I want to make art, if I want to make poetry, like I literally get inspired by the hormones and just the feeling I get. Like sometimes when I was driving up to a wedding from California to Washington, just looping my urine. I wasn't even pulling over because I didn't have to. And I was just going for like 12 hours, and just the most spontaneous facility of the tongue. My tongue was just pure silver, just wicking the most poetic verses, and it was just coming out, flowing. I was just recording, and it was just blissful. So I do it when I want to be inspired, when I want to be hydrated, and when it smells good. I don't do it all the time. It's really based on feel, but I honestly feel like the order of healing is juice feasting, water fasting, and then urine fasting. I think urine is the highest. I actually think, I wouldn't be surprised, let's say, if the translation of like, how the living waters from your own well in the Bible refers to urine therapy. I wouldn't be surprised if the 40 days of water was actually 40 days of urine. In fact, in my heart, that is what I feel that to be. It just makes intuitive sense to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't even specify water. It just says 40 days fasting. And,
Okay.
and it would make sense that I mean, certainly you could sustain breatharian for 40 days if you were that in tune with it. But it would make sense because Jesus at that point was not in his Christed self fully. So it would make sense to have that sort of urine as that sort of stepping stone of being able to survive in the desert for 40 days of just drinking one's own urine. So it makes total sense to me.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
And I really think this whole hydrogen water fad has its root in urine therapy. Because if I want my urine to be like champagne, I'll do deep breath holds, and literally, this is where I'm like pushing out my belly, and there's like an osmotic pressurization where the hydrogen from the air I'm breathing gets like infused into my urine, and I'll pee and it's bubbling. It's like you'll see bubbles hugging to the side of the glass, just like champagne. So if you want to have like the champagne of urine, do like 2 hours of breath work and you're in for a treat. You're in for a treat. Love you, John Rose.
Wow.
John Rose.
That's a skill. Champagne urine.
Yeah. 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 I think it's the most hydrating form of the urine is after you do a deep breathwork session, it just gets infused with the hydrogen. I think that's why everyone is like blowing money on these hydrogen water things when like you are a hydrogen water technology. You are a computer. You are everything that is outside of you and has been externalized. It's in you because you're like a photograph taken at all angles. So the camera means dark room. The womb is a dark room. A camera opens its aperture to let in light. Your mother opens her aperture to let you birth out of that. At the moment you crown, all the light angles from all over crystallize into your unique astrological blueprint. So you literally have all the essences of the cosmos imprinted into your being. And so if you look at one of these technologies, it's like, oh, it has like a little bit of Aquarian energy and Taurus energy, you know, it's like about futuristic electrical grounding. You just have to find that in yourself. Literally anything. Even this is what I'm realizing here in Puerto Morelos more and more. It's like these Tesla devices, this coil. Kundalini means coiled serpent. The coil is the energy going up your spine. You see these energy devices where it's like a column with like a sphere on top. Hello, your spine is the column, your head is the sphere on top. All of these technological devices are just inspired by the body, even if it's unconscious. But you are literally the highest technology. You just have to find it in yourself and breathe into it. Literally push in that prana to activate it.
I should have peed all over myself in that bathroom. Why didn't I do it? I remember in Thailand, I keep getting comments about urine therapy on my channel. And I'm always just like, no, man, because I was like offended by it. I think when we're not clean, we're offended by that whole process. And I've tasted it. I've tried it out in Thailand. I did nothing but fruit for 10 days. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go for this. On carnivore, like on fruitarian, it smelled like coconut water. It wasn't good. I wasn't there. I wasn't at the level to where it was like, oh, yeah, I could sell this. It was doable. It was mild. But on carnivore, like I wasn't putting that in my mouth. I could smell it right away. I was like, nope, that's not therapy. That's heading the other direction. Like it's once you're clean, then that I could see it. Then that urine could heal skin issues. I'm going to pee on my face. I can't wait. That'll clear it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they always tell you don't pee in the bathtub, but I pee in the bath every single time. I think it's vital to pee as much as you got in that bathtub. You know, get those get those nutrients flowing, and yeah, so I know salt isn't good to consume, but it's great to bathe in, from my understanding. So I always add Himalayan salt and Epsom salt to my bath, and then make sure I pee whatever I got in there.
And that's a natural, you just feel it. The heat always, even if I just peed and then I get into the shower, I pee again, that heat just relaxes you. And there was more in there. Maybe that's a bladder issue of mine, but yeah, pee is life.
Yeah. So I know I said 2 hours, but I'm having a lot of fun. Are y'all good to keep going?
Yep, I'm good to go.
Charge on through, bro.
Cool.
I want to
Yeah.
say something really quick about bathing in salt. I also experienced that to be very true. And I'm going to show you guys something that's probably going to gross you out. But, you know, I don't care. So if you look in iridology, you'll see that the dark ring around people's eyes, I still have some. I still have a lot, obviously, because it's coming out of my body. That is uric acid. And a lot of people will just say that's animal protein, but Professor Arnold Ehret says it's also in avocados and coconut meat and tahini. So it might just be like whatever dense protein you put in your body, it can have a byproduct of uric acid. And when I go in the ocean, I brought a beautiful leaf just to show you guys. When I go in the ocean, I'll come out and I'll just gently trace and scrape. This is why my nails are so freakishly long. You see them? It's because like I want to get all this out. The iridologist told me it would take 2 years doing it every day. And I'm over that mark because I haven't done it every day. But this is what it looks like when it comes out of your body. It's like a black kind of clay. Like I can literally, there's some hair in there. That's really gross. But, it like you can literally like, Marie knows what I'm talking about. When I was at her house, I was always scraping my body. And I think I even like left a ball of it on your table. I'm sorry about that, Marie. And then, so that's the uric acid, and it comes out of every part of your skin. But when you get to the upper head and the bottom of your feet, that's when it goes from black to white, and that's when it's carbonic acid, which is a byproduct of starch. And I don't have a lot of starch, but obviously I have a little bit of carbonic acid because this is what I just got all this out today. You can, it looks like a kind of like a cream.
Wow.
Sometimes it comes out thicker.
That's from in here, like scratching
That's
in
from
here?
here. That's just from scraping.
Yeah.
I don't want to say scraping because like you're not cutting into your head, but you have to do it so for me, it's optimal. Like when I come out of the ocean, the salt is like extracting things and then I'm just starting to sweat, or like I just finished walking and I'm like kind of sweaty. Then that's when I'm like, oh, that's prime. That's just, I'm getting all of it out right now. And, even sometimes just rubbing, remember when you were a child and you just rub your hands together?
I'm getting it.
Those little cylinders of clay, that's uric acid. So everyone has pretty much done it. They're like, oh, no, that's dirt. No, it's not dirt. It's not dirt. It might be a little bit of dirt in there if you've been playing in the dirt. But, if you're just taking a shower and you go into class and you're like really bored because they're brainwashing you and you're just rubbing your hands together because there's nothing better to do, you'll see these little cylinders of that uric acid clay. And so that comes out of all parts of the body. And if you have a partner and they got nails and they're going to like trace your back, it doesn't get better than that. I'm not able to do that right now, but it's a dream that I have.
I wanted to tell you that I
each other like monkeys. What's that?
I wanted to tell you that I've started to, a couple weeks ago, getting tons of it out of my fingers. Not so much as I traveled, tons of it. Like you could see under my finger pads were black.
Yes.
Yeah. And my fingers were like super dry. So it would be like you could see the black lines and then I would just go like that, scrape, and it was coming out. So yeah, this is a real thing. Not that, Amber's example wasn't real enough, but it's
Yeah, well, and because I know for lymphatic system, like body brushing is really good, and I imagine that could do sort of have like a similar effect doing it with your fingers and sort of stimulating the lymphatic system as well as getting that gunk off of your skin. So you got that kind of double whammy of detox and stimulation. I can't deal with the long nails. Like, I don't know how I like to be able to close my fist and not have it dig into my hands, but maybe find something else, like some little scratcher or something I could get, take along with me. A back scratcher, maybe.
Yeah, it is uncomfortable and it's kind of impractical if you're doing handy things, but I'm just looking at it as like a temporary necessity because I've tried other things like cards, like credit cards or something. And that might work, but you'd have to be in like the most optimal condition is when you are in a infrared sauna and you are actually in the state of sweating. Like when I'm in a sauna, if you're in a sweat lodge, that is the optimal time to get all the uric acid out of your skin as much as possible. And why this is so important and how it relates to detox, other than just, you're getting toxins out of your body, is that this is activating cutaneous breath Look up cutaneous breath. Cutaneous just means your skin. So this means that you're breathing through your skin. This is the secret behind how like monks can bury themselves in the earth for a long. It's because they're still breathing through their skin. And after I get out all this stuff, there's like a mental clarity that comes. And I know it's because I'm just getting more oxygen because my skin is breathing it in. But, as long as one is in a city or, like you're getting like fumes of cars inside of your skin or whatever that is, it's going to be a necessary part of the maintenance. And it really requires to be hydrated and to be sweating a little bit to get all of it out.
I remember in Thailand, I was getting a lot of black stuff. I figured it was just pollution from the city, but maybe it was uric acid because I could rub my leg and I was like, how could I be this dirty? I shower every day, 3 times a day. In Thailand, it was so hot and I'm just rubbing. It was mostly on my legs, but everywhere I tried. And when I got back to Canada, I'm having showers and I'm like really getting in there. And it's like just this filth coming out. And I've talked to other people. My friend David Kelly, he was doing a fruit diet for a while and he was getting all this black stuff out of him. Uric acid is no joke because when I went, I was doing the carnivore diet for 11 months straight, mostly just meat. And I ended up trying a little bit of dairy kefir, which brought on another colitis flare. And I was like, oh no, really, this is going to happen? That sucked. And so I went straight into a juice fast and I got gout in my opinion, from all the uric acid from the meat. Like I'd never got that in all my years. Like people were saying, oh, it's the fruit causes, like, no way. Like I was 10 years almost fruitarian and it was that meat built up. And for whatever reason, like, as long as you don't disturb it, like if you just stay on carnivore, it stays in your tissues. It's not going to hurt you. But if you ever want to remove it, it's going to come out. And I've never been in so much pain in my life. It was like my knees, my ankles, I couldn't walk. I was on crutches in my house. And like my mom was getting me stuff and juicing for me. Like it was so painful. Never again. Uric acid is sharp and it doesn't come from, like, there's probably uric acid, like you said, in coconuts or beans or whatever, but like I've eaten that to abundance over my journey. Never did I ever experience the meat-based uric acid. Don't even go there. It hurts.
Yeah, it's probably just a denser and even more acidic form of the acid. Because you can have uric acid, but because it's an acid, it'll have a certain amount of pH. And so this is actually why I think people get sunburned, is they have all this acid in their skin and then it's getting heated up. So it's like activating it to burn the skin. When I get a bunch of uric acid, my body's just like, all right, it's time to go out in the sun. And I'll just stay out there and be like, oh my gosh, like I can't stay out this long. Of course, you can put natural coconut oil on. Really recommend everyone just ditch sunscreen. Really, really bad for you. Do not do sunscreen. It'll give you cancer. Not good at all. And just something about pH I want to share is that the reason a phone is spelled pH1. pH1 is very acidic on the scale of acid and alkaline. So ditch the pH1 because radiation will acidify the body. And just get a freaking notebook. That's what I do. I ditched a phone a year ago. I'm so glad I don't have a phone. It's the most liberating thing that's happened to me in recent memory. Just get rid of the acid in your life in all aspects.
Yeah, and if you are not prepared to get rid of it entirely, they have radiation blocking cases that you can get that are really helpful. I've got one. I don't have it on my phone right now, but it's helpful because I can actually close the case and speak into it, and it's got the radiation shield between me and the phone, and I can put that side facing me in my pocket too. So it's just kind of a helpful way of reducing that damage because they are very hazardous. They say in the user manual, like do not hold near your body, do not have it in your pocket, do not hold it within 6 feet of you for any extended periods of time. Like they write it right in there, and then we just ignore that. And so they tell us, but we do it anyway.
There are these little patches. I've heard really good things about them. They're called orbs, but they don't deliver to Canada for some reason. Once all this deadly virus stuff started, like they for some reason won't ship to Canada, but like it's a little patch that goes on your phone. Like I know there's a bunch of gimmicks out there, but this seemed to be like a legit one. I don't have any proof, but it could
Yeah.
work.
I know shungite is often touted as a useful stone. Yeah, that's helpful for radiation, and it's also supposedly good for purifying water as well. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I put that's another thing I put in my bath. I would love to get a bigger one, but I've got a little shungite stone that I always put in my bath, and it's supposed to be helpful at drawing out any sort of toxins in there. And I also do just I think I can't remember who's the guy who does oh, nice. Yeah, that's a cool looking one. I can't remember the guy that does the MMS protocol, which I think there are some benefits if you're toxic to MMS, but it's not necessary if you're on an alkaline diet. But he recommends putting a teaspoon or a tablespoon of borax into the tub as well, and that's very helpful at binding with fluoride and chlorine and other harmful chemicals. So I'll just put a little bit of borax in there as well. Just something to throw out there.
Yo, this is a bit of a tangent, but have you guys seen these videos of the nanotech worms in masks that are activated by hot breath?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to present something without a solution. So I watched a video by Miss Dana Ashley a while ago.
I've seen that one.
Yeah. And what she advocates, and it's still online, so if you go to her channel, you can still find it. Highly recommend it, because who knows how long it's going to be there for. You can literally take borax and just sprinkle it like salt into water. And apparently that is a huge way to detoxify the body from nanotech.
Yeah,
So,
it's that paired with a little bit of apple cider vinegar was the protocol that she suggested for that, as
Okay.
far as neutralizing those nanobots, which again I think is helpful if your body is not in an alkaline state, but I really don't think this nanotech can survive in an alkaline body. So it's like a stepping stone to getting there if you're still toxifying your body with other things. But I think the best solution is just to embody a state where there's no parasite, no nanobots, nothing can survive within us, which is the alkaline state, which is our godhood state, you know.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
strange world. Nanobots and like, oh, great. Wonder I still like I'm trying to like, oh, Q, they're in control. So none of that crazy stuff that's happening right now is real. It's an interesting movie. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely interesting playing out for sure.
Yeah. When it comes to sun, I admittedly I have a bit of sun fear. Just that I think it kind of ages the skin. When I look at like my forearms are always exposed to the sun versus my upper arm isn't. This looks a little aged more. And when I see like the sun worshiping people who are like, the sun is the best, like it kind of it ends up doing something, like it brings out. Is that true? Should I have any fear? Because I want to be out there. I want to believe, but always like my nose will burn. And how the sun is like what, 90,000 kilometers up in our dome. It's not that far, but how is 1 inch more? Why does that burn? It's just 1 inch closer. But yeah, should we be afraid, even on a healthy diet, of the sun for vanity purposes?
Well, I mean, the nose thing specifically is just because we don't ever have any shadows covering the nose, so it's like just that constant exposure. Whereas like underneath your eyes, your brows are giving your shade, and the rest of your face you're getting some shade from other places. So that's why that happens with the nose more often. But And I'll let Remembrancer speak on this because I'm sure he's got a lot more to add. But as he was saying, the more alkaline we are, the less the sun activates the acidity in our skin, and that's what burns us a lot less. So it's a really a miraculous solution for everything. You know, it's a cure-all. If we get our body into an alkaline state, then we don't have to worry about all these other sorts of things nearly as much. Now, it's got to be a pragmatic approach, just like sun gazing and just like, you know, acclimating your skin to any sort of new stimuli. We're so conditioned to be in this inside cavernous dark environment that we are not prepared for full-on sun exposure. So you do have to take it in steps and take it a bit by bit. And I find this a really beautiful practice of being present and really feeling my body, because when you are in tune with feeling your skin, you do start to notice that sensation of when I am starting to burn, and that's when I need to take a shade break and just making sure I'm not like forgetting myself and not getting lost in the chaos and the thought games, and I'm actually staying present. Then I never get to that point where it's like, I'm going to be out in the sun, I need to fear it, I need to put on sunscreen or whatever else, because I'm just going to know, I'm going to feel that burn coming on. It's like, okay, I need to spend some time in the shade, I need a little break. But as we acclimate, as we go back into our natural state of being outdoors, being in the sun all the time, I truly do think that we evolve into this state where we don't have to fear it whatsoever, and we don't ever have to worry about getting burns, because we're going to feel it first of all, but we're going to be in such a better state of being to where it's not going to burn us nearly as much. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, just a quick one from me, just without, I noticed a whole week without like really sticking my face in the sun for an extended amount of time, just energetically, how dimmed I felt. Now that I live in a place where I'm in the sun every day, like before these shows, I go and charge for like at least a half an hour. I just lay there, I put coconut oil, rub it everywhere. I'm just like, I get sweaty. It's so healing right now. And I know that my skin has an affinity for the sun, so I'm not like I'm more olive. So I don't know if that tends to help in terms of sunburn, but I used to get a lot more burned, just like on my chest or on my face or something, but I don't get burned anymore, which is very interesting. And I do listen, like what Justin was saying, I get out if I feel like, ooh, okay, that's the burn. But I love the sun. I love it.
Yeah, I was so paranoid of it in Thailand because I didn't want to like age the skin. That was just one of my theories, that sun ages the skin. So I'm like having these sleeves on and this goofy hat that covered everything. And I was wearing a mask every day. Like that's the only time I was wearing a mask. Oh, that was stupid. I should probably get the sun.
I think you would probably work up to it too. Your skin seems a little bit more fair, and it might take a minute.
Yeah, just because I'm in here a lot, I don't go out or I'm protecting my face. I probably shouldn't worry about that because we obviously need it. I've been vitamin D deficient before, and so I do supplement it, but Canadian sun, it's not so harsh. Maybe that.
I don't think it's aging me. I think it's bringing me back in age. Go ahead, Amber.
No, what did you say? You think it's going back in age?
I initially thought I was getting older when I moved down here and was in the sun every day. Like I felt like my skin was getting older. But I think that was because I was still eating all of the yucky foods. And now I feel like it's reversing my age, which seems totally against everything that we've learned. Yeah. But I'm 41 and I feel like, I have a little bit, my forehead moves, but I don't
That's
think it's
not allowed, Murray.
Yeah, but I think it's very natural. I think I'm feeling like I'm in alignment. You know what I mean?
Have you guys ever heard of the work of Dr. Afrika? His name is like Dr. Elia Afrika. He has some really interesting observations. He talks a lot about melanin, which is, of course, what's produced and that's what makes the skin a dark. Melanin is carbon, and carbon is a crystal. And so when you have more and more melanin, you're more and more protected from the sun, and you're also able to absorb different parts of the spectrum that are completely healing. But just as the sun has degrees of heat, if you're at a more pale shade and pale degree, then you do need to take it in doses and you need to acclimate into it. In terms of the nose burning first, it does have to do with the shade, but it can also have to do with the heart. It could have to do with fiery emotions that are unprocessed in the heart. It could have to do with acids that are in the heart because the meridian is related that way. I'm speaking from experience. I've noticed there's a big relationship between how my heart feels and how sensitive the nose is to the sunlight. But kind of like I'm hearing Marie is approaching this, is you really kind of ask your body, when have I had enough of when you're in the sun? Because also the sun will have different sunspot cycles each day. Like the amount of heat that a sun expresses today and tomorrow can be completely different. It can be same season, different sun. So I'd really just take an intuitive approach. I'd encourage a lot of coconut oil use. I don't know if you put coconut oil on your skin before you go out into the sun, but that's a really great way to approach it. I put coconut oil on my skin every day. I like to put rosemary and frankincense in my coconut oil. Woo! And oh yeah! And I just, that's my anointing oil. I'll put that in my hair, put that in my skin, everywhere. And I think better. And I think you also need to eat less when you coat your skin with oil. Because what happens when you come back from like hiking, let's say, your skin can kind of feel oily and grimy. What does that mean? It means your body produced oil and put it out through the epidermis tissue, probably to protect you from the sun. I don't want to say protect, maybe to help you absorb certain spectrums of the light, maybe to protect. So when you put oil on your skin and your head, you need to eat less because you no longer need to eat the foods that are producing the oil. It just kind of intuitively makes sense. But yeah, we do need to develop melanin in our skin to a degree that we can take more degrees of the sunlight. So it's a very, bit by bit approach to it. And it may be a generational thing too. Maybe, certain ancestors weren't getting a lot of sun. So you need to work your way up to that. And the last thing I want to say is what John Rose observes, which I've never heard anyone else talk about, which is that if you really want vitamin D, not only do you need to expose your skin to the sun, but you need to not wash your skin with soap and water for at least 48 hours because the vitamin D is produced as a hormone on the skin and then it osmotically absorbs into the body through the skin. So if you're going out and sunbathing and then going and taking a shower and putting soap on your skin, you're not going to get the vitamin D that way. You need to let it develop. And I don't take showers anymore. I think it's been 2 years since I've taken a shower. If I feel dirty, I just go into the ocean or a river or another body of water. It's a great excuse to get in touch with nature. If you do shower and you're using city water, you absolutely need to use a filter. If you're not filtering city water, you're poisoning yourself. You're poisoning yourself. You just look up what they put in the water. It's absolutely diabolical. There's pharmaceuticals in there. There's fluoride, there's chlorine, there's a cocktail of toxicity. So when I was taking showers, I was just adding a shower filter. But if I ever need to, I just go in a natural body of water. And for the most part, the oil makes me feel and smell clean. The thing is that most people shower because they're putting so much crap in their body that they're toxic. And so they know there's something dirty in them and they smell bad. But when you do the work where, oh yeah, I just had some basil yesterday, that smells awesome. Then you no longer need to clean from the outside in, you clean from the inside out. So, some people might hear, oh, you're not taking showers? That's dirty. On the contrary, my friend, I have cleaned myself from the inside out to get to a point where if I do need to do that, it's very occasionally and with a natural body of water where it's more of like a ritualistic communion and not kind of a habitual daily dose of like hot water on the skin, which is not really good for you anyways. So
Yeah, and I've kind of shifted. I mean, I will take showers occasionally, maybe like once every couple weeks. But I've shifted more to baths, and speaking of that regimen of adding salt. So and Josh X has spoken about this. When we add salts to a bath, um, it stops our skin from absorbing the toxins that are within the water. So it keeps us from absorbing the sort of nasty gunk that's put in there. And then I also add the borax and the shungite just to add as another sort of neutralizer of that water when I'm with it. And he even suggests, I don't do this very often just because it's kind of a pain to clean, but if you add the activated charcoal to the bath, it adds another layer of protection between the harsh chemicals, the toxins, and your skin. So that's something you can do as well. But yeah, if I was near the ocean, I wouldn't ever get anywhere near tap water because the ocean is optimum. It's got the perfect layers, levels of salt. It is the mother. I mean, the ocean is the mother. I mean, that is definition. She is always inviting us with her embrace, and she's always cleansing. So that's the perfect place to be and perfect place to bathe.
I miss that Thailand ocean. I tell you, every morning I used to go there. It was like a warm bath. I couldn't believe it. When I came back here to Toronto, and we went down to the lake, and it was a heat wave. Like we're talking, I'm melting here. Touched my foot in that lake. I was like, my God, how could you have a colder water? It was so cold. Like we don't have that natural body of water. So I do have a filter, a Berkey filter on my shower. But yeah, for some reason, I've always had a shower every morning. I guess I've been indoctrinated to do it, but I should stop doing that because I don't feel the need. Like I do, I feel I'm trying to like heal this acne still. So I feel like I'm trying to clean it off, but maybe clean it from within. That's where you purify. So if I can get there, yeah, I smell much better than I do on the carnivore diet. That's for sure. I smell a little, I'm adding turmeric and onions now to my green juice. I'm like, okay, that's an interesting addition to that smell. It was, it's good, Marie. Don't you? No, it's really good in the green juice.
But not so much the onions. I'm super sensitive to onions and garlic right now.
Yeah, they're harsh. They're a questionable one. I'm just assuming like we're on day 24 now, and I just got the intuition of like, all right, let's go in for the kill now. Like gets a little bit of because we've starved out the parasites, and now it's like, okay, let's give them a little nuclear garlic and onions. It's harsh though. I can understand that that's not a food you mess around with. You don't just add it for flavor. Like that's a powerful thing you try once in a while, and yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, my take on anything in the allium family, leeks, chives, onion, garlic, shallots, the allium family, or just don't even mess with it because it indiscriminately kills good and bad gut bacteria, and it passes through the blood-brain barrier. That's why, like, what can you do where it's like reeking out of your hand? Or it's not normal for a food to do that. But somehow we give a free pass to garlic and onion because it's in everything. And that should tell you everything you need to know. It's a no-go. And from my experience, addiction to the alliums is symptomatic that you need to have a conversation with ginger and see where's ginger in your life. Bring back that gingerly essence to your being, because ginger also has that bite, but it's a sincere kind of bite. It's really clearing the energy, and it's giving you that nice kind of fiery doshic stimulation, but without the damage to the gut microbiome that we work so hard to cultivate. It's a precious gift. And if you look at monks, they don't eat anything from the allium. They stay away from it because it's ragistic. It's too fiery. That's why, the Italians are always characterized as like being very boisterous and argumentative and passionate. It's because they eat so much garlic and onion. It is not meant for your body. And it's, in my experience, it was completely symptomatic that, all right, I need to bring back ginger. And I found a great way to do that with Marie. And that's simply just get a zester and just zest. If you zest ginger into your orange juice, you're going to be craving it. Zested ginger in orange juice is a divine kiss from the goddess. It is so good. I can't even express how amazing it is. And I haven't tried it on other things because I don't have a zester. I'm about to get one though. I'm sure it's also good on salads, probably on crackers, you know, on anything that a lot of things that you eat. Just see how if you incorporate ginger into your life, because I love the smell of onion and garlic. I'm not going to deny. I'm like, sometimes I smell, I'm like, are you cooking with like 50 spices? Because it smells amazing. They're like, no, it's just, you know, onion and garlic. But, you know, for me, when I incorporated ginger, that craving went away and I don't even touch the stuff. I had a little bit of it because I tried to impress Marie by making an Italian sauce and it was just such a failure. And everyone's stomach was just like, oh, I feel so bad, including me. And so, yeah, it's not a good food. It's probably a great medicine when used very sparingly with someone who knows how to prepare it and use it in the right way. But for me, I'm just like, go ginger.
Yeah, the ginger and orange juice thing was amazing. That day that we discovered ginger and orange juice together, we were just so blissed out and laughing and just like, oh my God, why? Like it was so next level. It was amazing. I'll never forget that. It was super fun. I love ginger.
I think ginger can heal you just smelling it. There's something so magical. Imagine the first human being to find ginger and they just like, oh my God, what is that? It's so good. I love it in my green juices. I would add it to every juice I have. Like it's so tasty, but I worry that it's maybe even too harsh because it is like a pretty spicy thing. I've had some bladder issues in the past. I used to have interstitial cystitis. I was never diagnosed with it, but it just felt like a chronic bladder infection, pain all the time. And it's a little irritated when I'm filling up with juice, but the pain goes away as soon as I pee. So I don't have that same level, but some things like that, the jalapeno pepper definitely hurt. Ginger is borderline, but I would add it. If Remembrancer can convince me that it's not going to ever hurt me, I'll load up on that stuff.
Well, I think as a caveat, I think what Justin said earlier is like, listen to your body. If your body's telling me like, I'm not really craving this anymore, or like, that's too much, it's too much. You know, too much of anything is bad, even water. It's called drowning, right? Too much of anything is bad. So if the ginger is like an irritant, because, you know, there's different degrees of ginger spice. You know, I got some wild homegrown ginger in Nicaragua that like knocked me backwards, really potent. So I would, you know, make sure that like how potent is the ginger? How much are you having? And is my body craving it? Like really use the body as the barometer of what should be going in it for sure.
And also for like parasite cleansing, Kasey, one thing that's worked for me, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, has been enemas. I know they're a little bit controversial, but like lemon juice enemas, and I have had some really yucky parasites come out of me. Yeah. You know, but then being like, yeah, dudes, you got to go. So I try and do those once or twice a week.
Yeah, enemas are so necessary. I'm so glad you brought that up. Professor Spira, who is the author of the annotated and revised mucusless diet healing system, he's really championing the work of Professor Arnold Ehret. He just goes on and on about enemas and lemonas. If you've never heard of a lemona, it's enema water with lemon in it. Do not do coffee enemas. It is super acidic for the bowels. Not a good thing. People are just attracted to it because like, oh, like I like coffee. I'm just gonna, you know, use it for an enema. You do not want to do that. It might get you a little bit buzzed because things that are taken as a suppository, they go straight into the bloodstream. But really, you don't want to be putting any acid in your body. So I would go, you know, do the, you start with water. You can add herbs. You could add ginger. I was looking at places in LA that were like real fancy. And they're like, yeah, we had lemon and heirloom ginger and oregano and rosemary. And I was like, ooh, sounds nice, but the price tag is a little bit exaggerated, but I'm sure it's worth it. but we could just do that ourselves, but enema's super crucial. Just keep in mind that a juice feast literally does everything, and it does everything an enema can't do, which is cleaning out the small intestine. So a juice feast is like a reverse enema colonic hydrotherapy. For anyone who doesn't know, enema is taking a bag of like 2 liters and you just cycle it in, you let the stomach expand. When it gets to a full point, then it'll push around the tube and things will come out. Some people take out the tube and just let it all come out. And then a colonic hydrotherapy is when you're laying down, you're cycling. It's like a machine, and it's going in, and that's really awesome. If you've never done it, I would just invite you to remember that we've been made to be ashamed of that root chakra in so many ways. And some people are like, "Whoa, I couldn't do that. I'm too manly. Like I'm not going to let someone do that to my body." But you need to get over that. And let me just say, it's really helpful to get over that. You're perfect as you are. If you're too manly for that, then okay. But I'm no less of a man for taking out stagnant, foul things out of my body that way. Better out than in. In fact, I'm more of a man for having the willpower to do that and know that it's the mind that makes the man. It's not these things that we've been made to think. And so if you've never done an enema or a colonic hydrotherapy, I could not encourage you to do it enough. The top 3 things that people experience: glowing skin, deeper sleep, and more energy. And who could not use all 3 of those things? Everyone wants those things. So if you haven't looked into it, if you feel there's a break around, or there's like something around that, there might be some trauma in that part of your body that you haven't dealt with. The root holds a lot of trauma because it is the most powerful of all the chakras. It drives the heat of all the other chakras. It is the most powerful. It's the sac red. The red sac is the red root chakra. That's why in the tarot card, the Fool, he has the red sac up on his back, but the red sac is where the upper chakras is, and that's what makes him a fool, is because he's inverted. The red sac is supposed to be the sacred sacrum on the bottom. And, it's just another inversion. And when we get clear of those mind games and the tactics to make us ashamed of that part of our body, you really have powerful breakthroughs and cleaning beyond anything you've ever experienced if you've never done it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and just to add to the lemon juice, I've seen suggestions of adding just a little bit of sodium bicarbonate to the lemon juice and letting that react before you add the water to dilute it more, just to kind of balance out the acidity from the lemons a little bit, and you add that extra cleaning boost of the sodium bicarbonate added in there too. So just a thought to throw a little teaspoon of sodium bicarb in there.
Funny story. I just did this because I was like, I just heard about the lemon enema. I've done like cabbage juice. I've experimented throwing things up there because like they say cabbage juice heals ulcers. And I was like, just stick it right up there. And like, that's where my ulcerated colitis was. So that didn't work so much. That was just a weird, it was just gurgles and it didn't end up going too well. But I just did a lemon water enema. I put 3 lemons in, no baking soda. It was just pure acids. It stung a bit, but it was doable. And I got out a little friend. I saw it. It was in there, a worm, long, thin white thing surrounded in mucus. I'm like, okay, how many more are in there? Lemon will bring it out. So it's real. Don't be ashamed. Just do it. Why not get it out? Why do you want worms in your body? Just get it out. I must have them. I was eating raw meat. Imagine.
Me too, brother. Got a lot of stuff to get out.
Yeah. And it seems to be the path to heal is just get it out. But it's not always comfortable. You have to understand that. Like you might be tired sometimes and you don't even know why. Like on 24 days, I'm charting everything. So I see like, how do I feel? And some days I'm just dead, like just dead tired. I'm like, how? Like I didn't change anything. I didn't drink less juice. Like, oh, do I need more calories? Like, it's not like that. It's just your body, it's time to rest. Like, I'm gonna work on something. Like, I've had some miraculous things happen. I injured my wrist in golf as a carnivore back in Thailand, and it's never been the same. Something's wrong with it. It feels like it was fractured or something, and it never healed right. And then on like day 3 of this juice fast, it just starts getting really sore for like 5 days straight. And then boom, gone. It feels like normal again. It's like it's hard to know like detox versus retox. Am I causing something or is it just detox? It's a tough one, but for the most part, it is detox if you're doing the right thing, just fruits and veggies. If you're experimenting too much with crazy stuff, you could be irritating your system, but it's a rough road and it goes in waves. I find it's just, oh, I'm on top of the world, then I'm dead for a bit. And then it keeps going up and up though. On this fast, I just notice it. It's like I'll have a couple down days, but then, oh, I'm much better than I was. Like today and yesterday, I'm on fire. Like I was a little worried because I've been kind of exhausted a couple of the past days. I'm like, oh, am I going to be able to do this talk? I feel on fire and I'm hot. How am I drinking cooling watermelon juice? And I'm like heated and fiery. And it's a fun road. It takes work. It's not the easiest path, but I talk about this in my videos, just like exercising discipline yields rewards. It's hard to do this. Like it's hard to fast sometimes, but you get these rewards from it. It's always beneficial. Whereas like carnivore diet, it's the easiest diet. You just binge on gluttonous fatty meat and it's so easy. Why would you be rewarded with perfect, amazing health and you're killing animals? And it's like discipline. Snake diet. He knows all about discipline. Does anybody follow Snake Diet? I see him in the comments. People keep mentioning him. He's very into fasting, and discipline and like get off social media. Like discipline is where don't release. Like he's good in that sense, but he's more like carnivore. But he has good principles.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's truth to that as far as the discipline goes, but that's only because we are moving away from the most horrible extreme programming of conditioning us into this intoxicating way of being. Because in reality, when we shift fully and we've just got fruit trees growing all around, like that doesn't really take a lot of discipline. It's just like, what do I want to go eat today? I'm gonna go walk around the trees and see what gifts they're providing me. And yeah, it's a conscious reprogramming to get to that point, and it might take years and years to really fully acclimate to that. But as we move along in this stage, it is going to be very easy to maintain and doesn't really take a lot of discipline because it is just the simplicity of the earth and what she provides. And so yeah, it just takes some work to get there, but we're doing it.
We talk about how immense this journey is because it is a total pullout. So it can be, I mean, I really feel that, Kasey, like I know where you're coming, like, oh my gosh, it's just very immense. And we're, like we talked about earlier in the show, just at the forefront of something really magnificent and really different, which is just coming back to nature and the simple truth. But it's a pullout. It's a pullout, and there's lots of cords. There's generations of this stuff, and it's in our programming from our families of origin. I mean, just think of all the cultures and my cultures eating raw meat. So, I mean, this is big stuff that we're coming out of, and it's beautiful. And the gifts, like I love how you spoke about the rewards, because there are, and it does take a little bit of concentration to shift your focus and to stay focused on the narrow path, because this is what we're doing. And the temptations, living in Toronto, I can't imagine, like even just being in San Diego last week, just all the ease around even vegan food, and the vegan food being filled with cashews and garlic and onions and oils and all. It's like, but the vegan food is supposed to be the healthy stuff, and it's just so readily available. And so I can see where people are like thinking they're doing the right thing, but and they're going in that direction. But this is like, you're going all the way. You're going all the way. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. So, oh, go ahead. Remembrancer. What you got?
I found that on the juice feast, I also experienced these cycles of feeling really up and really down. And every single time I felt down, I was about to have a huge release. And so it reached a point where I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to keep going then. Because if I feel bad, that's actually a good thing. And then I would get excited about feeling bad because I knew I was about to feel really good. And to me, it's really symptomatic of time travel in a way. Because if you think about it, these accretion of layers, they're like holding in a moment in time when you felt the need to comfort yourself in the way that you thought you knew how to. And so there's an emotion paired with that input that's at a certain layer of the plaquing that's in the tube. So as you go through your own YouTube and you start to strip away at the layers and you get more and more and more back to your naked, authentic, untouched self, you're going through some heavy emotions because you might have like some weird stuff that you ate when you were 6, like at fast food or something, or like some bubble gum, some weird stuff that's just like in there, and it has a certain emotion. And so when I went through this experience, it was the greatest therapy I had ever gone through because I was really getting at the core of what was keeping that, what was not allowing me to release that. And every time I'd have a release, it was like getting into a deeper layer of my heart as well, because those emotions can kind of keep us from breathing deep enough to get into that inner core of the heart. And, you can even feel like if you really want to open your heart, just do a breathwork session and it's just going to blossom. But it really is super emotional because you're literally going back in time to the moments where you chose to comfort yourself in a way that really was not serving you in the way you thought it was. Maybe temporarily, but not in the long term.
That's genius, really, because I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up is they see these detox symptoms come out and then they feel they're doing something wrong. I can only speak from my experience because that's what I'm always like, oh, what did I do to cause that reaction? I must have eaten, it was the cashews or it was the lettuce. Oh, lettuce is like, it's just ride the waves. If you're doing the right thing, you'll get there eventually. And I do feel like the juice fasting accelerates things, whereas just raw vegan, it's good. It's a nice level, and raw till 4, that's much below. Like, but you do this, like just push through it. That's what I'm doing. 90 days, no matter what. So far, so good. I finally got my useless goal of the 1-arm pull-up. We did it on a fruitarian. How did that happen? It's just like I lost a little bit of weight, maybe 4.8 pounds. I was not able to do it. And then all of a sudden on day 12 of the juice fast, boom, 1 arm. Like that's been my goal for working out for so long. And I just did it. I just exploded up there. I was like, I'm eating no protein whatsoever, like 20 grams of protein. Like, how is it happening? I have no idea. I feel like it's healing the nervous system or something. And I feel more connected with my body. And I have this strength that it's not from protein. I've been on carnivore. I did the side by side. My carnivore me could like barely get up there at all. So fruit is protein.
Dude, brother, congratulations. I know how much that means to you. You've been looking to that for years.
Yeah,
That's
I don't know why.
Incredible.
Thank you so much.
Dude, it actually reminds me of an experience I had when I was fasting. I think this was actually when I was doing the bench night clay psyllium husk protocol. And I'd only been able to do like 60 push-ups max. And I did like a 5-mile run. And I just stopped in the middle of it. I was like, I feel so good. And I did over 100 push-ups. And so I just completely surpassed my former barrier. And I think it must have to do with acid, because what makes muscles sore is lactic acid production. So when we're in the really alkaline state and we can just kind of match those acids and keep our body from going into being starved of oxygen, basically, we can deepen the Krebs cycle of oxygen infusion and, you know, really break the paradigm of like, well, what is strength? What is muscle? What is that? Is that Shungai?
His battery died.
Yeah, my battery died. I was looking
Oh,
at
your
my
battery-
camera. I'm like, why is it off? I'm like, oh, battery's dead. Sorry about that.
It might be because you know, you're so alkaline that your body's just absorbing all the lactic acid production from the Krebs cycle, and you're able to go even deeper in your athletic expression. And I know as the world comes into this wisdom, we're gonna see so many records broken, so many things we thought were impossible, so many barriers are just going to be shattered because of the wisdom of bringing the alkaline to combat the acid production. It's so simple.
Yeah, that's
Wow,
what.
congrats though, man.
Yeah, it is
One arm
amazing. I mean,
pull-up.
that's
Wow.
what Josh has talked about, and he says as soon as this catches on, as soon as the fruitarian frugivore diet catches on within bodybuilding, that's going to be the game changer, because there's truly no easier way than to be flooding your muscles with exactly the fuel that they need so that you can sustain those longer, more intense workouts. And then it just grows. I mean, your muscles just expand and they grow. I mean, you do have to be consuming a lot of fruit in order to grow past whatever you would be doing on a normally day-to-day basis. But if you're committed to that way of growing, you're able to grow just your muscles without any of the toxic fat accumulation of the normal bodybuilding routine. And so you're able to be healthy and lean and just be that sort of way. So yeah, it's truly powerful. It's truly the solution to everything.
Yeah, that's been the biggest surprise so far for me, just seeing that I'm not getting weaker, I'm getting stronger. And the proof is in the pudding. Like John Rose, he's very strong. He limits certain exercises so he doesn't get too big. Like that's how big you can get on fruit. Like he's like, I don't want to get that bulky, so I don't lift in this certain way. Like you can get so big, and there's lots of good examples of people online, like Nathan Von Dutch. He's all into juice fasting and stuff, and he has a very decent body, and he's like fruitarian and big on fruit or something. There's one guy, you look at him and it's like, no way you're fruitarian. Like he's got tons of muscle. If that's what you want, I don't want a ton of muscle. I wanted that one arm pull up. Now I don't even know what the heck I'm going to work on. I reached it. But fruit can like absolutely fuel any exercise, I think. And I don't think getting super big is healthy anyway. I never worked out for that. It's always been health related. And I feel like moving the body, like we're in this body, you should do something you enjoy. And that was my thing. So I do it. And I've been pleasantly surprised that I haven't gotten weaker on like no protein whatsoever. It's weird. We're so brainwashed to think protein is everything. And it's the most damaging thing to your kidneys and your colon. And it's like, why are we doing that? So bad.
We're doing it because it's an 18 or it's an 18 Arnold Ehret taught it in the myth is very new to our culture.
Hey, we lost like the past
And
few seconds of what you just said. Can you repeat what you just said?
okay, yeah. So Professor Arnold Ehret talks about how the protein myth became injected into allopathic approach to health based on like a European scientist. He has a specific name and where he comes from in the mucusless diet healing system. And that it is literally, I don't know if he talks about this, but it's literally designed to damage the body and put it into acidosis. And what people are forgetting is that proteins are built out of amino acids. You don't take the protein from anything and make it into a protein of your body. You'll take the protein, you'll break it down into amino acids, and then those amino acids will be built into the proteins of your body. So what has the highest amount of ready available amino acids? Fruit. This is something I can't find online anymore, as like so many things. I went through so many doubts of this lifestyle and so much questioning, like, is this even real? And I was like, I need to see proof that people were doing this long term. And at some point in my research, I don't remember where or when, but there were like these these South American tribes that were discovered that were eating mostly papaya. And they were known for their incredible strength and muscle system, but it was really toned. It wasn't bulky and like inflamed. And what he was talking about was that, yes, you look leaner, but you're actually stronger because the muscle matrix built on fruit is finer. That's why the meat eaters look so, inflamed, because they are inflamed, because they're so full of acid. And the matrix of the muscle is like more webby. So it's more broken up, and hence why they're more prone to injuries. But when you have a really fine muscle matrix, you can look really toned, but doubt it not, you are jacked. And I'm glad that you brought up Nathan Von Dutch, because we were doing our juice feast at the same time. We were like both posting in John Rose and like thumb upping our comments. And I actually got to connect with him recently. Really great guy. And he's a great juice feast coach. Aside from John Rose, Nathan Von Dutch. I made a post for this session for those of you who are, do what I do and you download videos to audio so you can listen on the go. The link that I made with all the resources for juice feasting that I know of, and I'll be adding to it over time, /juicy.
Yeah, I
and
put
in that you'll see a link to Nathan Von Dutch's YouTube channel, and from there you can go to his website, get a consultation. Link to juice feast, and I was talking to,
Yeah, brother, you're kind of going in and out.
yeah,
Your connection's getting a little spotty. So that the link that he's referring to is at the top of the show
Okay.
notes. So for anyone looking to that, I put it at the very top, and it's a good resource for juice feasting and some kind of tips that Remembrancer is putting together. And like you said, he's going to be adding more to it. So you can find that. It's the very first thing in the the show notes. Yeah, I think your connection is a little better. So go ahead and finish what you were saying.
What was I saying? Yeah, so this video I did with Santos, I really recommend watching it. It's only like 20 minutes, and the link will take you right to the mark where he introduces me and I start talking. And I'm on day 111 talking about things like white oak bark powder that you take at the end of the juice feast to help tone the diverticuli, which is just, for no one who knows what that means, for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's just an expansion in the GI tract. Because the GI tract is like, it kind of looks like little links, kind of like chains that are ribbed. And one of those ribs can be impacted by something you eat, and it'll expand that part. And they call that diverticulitis. It's just, itis is inflammation. And then that divertic refers to that part of the intestinal tract. And when you take white oak bark powder mixed into juice, that will literally help shrink those blowouts, so that when you return to solid foods, they're not just going back into that weakened tissue and creating another problem again. Because just like if you get a kink in your GI tract, it's like getting a kink in your spine. It's going to affect a whole meridian system. So, when you're talking about this wrist weakness, Kasey, that might have a relationship to either your spinal meridian or the meridian in the GI tract. And so it might become more pronounced in the juice feast because it might be getting kind of irritated. It might be kind of like sloughing out. And I'd really recommend doing a bentonite clay psyllium husk addition at some point in your juice feast. John Rose talks about how month 2 is a good time to do that. So when you're between the day 60 and 90, it could be a great time to do the bentonite clay psyllium husk protocol. And that really just helps strip out things that are kind of maybe more stubborn, not coming out of the body.
I actually just started that because what's his name? Raw Vegan Rising did a
Shane.
little, yeah, he did a video on this whole protocol. So he says add it at about week 2. And so I waited a little bit longer and I just started yesterday. So we're going to see what that brings out. But yeah, do you have any other tips that could complement a juice fast or how to end it properly? The white oak bark powder sounds pretty fascinating. I will definitely look into that.
Yeah, the white oak bark powder is really the way you want to go at the very end of it. Of course, the optimal way is that you're going to end when you stop having solid eliminations. Don't be surprised still having solid poop. How rare is it to be able to that happens? And for me, I was still having solid eliminations at day 100. I think it took me until 120 to stop having things. And then I started really working my way back down and gradually backing off more and more. And what I would say is that especially towards the end, you might not be feeling super grounded. And if that's an issue, you want to juice things like sweet potatoes. Probably some of you didn't even know you could juice a sweet potato, that there was even juice to be had in there. But it is some of the best juice you've ever had.
It's creamy.
Really grounding, really nourishing, really delicious. So I really recommend that. I recommend the bentonite clay psyllium husk protocol. I'll be sure to add after this video to that link that's in the description the Blessed Herbs measurements, calendar, and user guide, so you can do your own Blessed Herbs cleanse with your own ingredients, because Blessed Herbs actually change their ingredients. So I wouldn't even recommend buying from the company, but I would recommend making your own list. I think it was actually so successful that I don't know if it got bought out and then kind of corrupted, but it's not as effective anymore. But it's even better for you because it's way cheaper just to buy the ingredients yourself. Psyllium husk and bentonite clay are literally dirt cheap because they're pretty much literally dirt. And I'd recommend doing things like diatomaceous earth. Look into that. Food grade, of course. That's one of those things that can absorb toxins and flush at the same time. Activated charcoal, also another really great one. And in terms of ending the feast, there's a link to the John Rose video. That's the best video I think he's made on the juice feast of him in Houston. And I would listen to that. I'd listen to what I was talking about because I'm on the tail end. But thinking back, the best way to break it is, of course, a melon. Melon is the most digestible thing in the body. It takes about 20 minutes to go through. So I would break the juice feast when you're ready and ending it after all those other protocols. So the white oak bark powder and those other things we just talked about on melons. And then once you do incorporate other more dense solid foods, like maybe a salad, just small portions. One of the one of the rookie mistakes I went is I was so excited to eat again that I had a big salad that did not serve me. Rein in those horses. It's going to be there for you. And just take your time, do small portions, and really start introducing your body with the melons. Like, okay, we're doing this all. And just get gradually more dense. And your stomach is more acclimated to.
Beautiful. Yeah, thanks for that. It's important to end the fast properly, very important. So I do need to go ahead and start wrapping up here. I wanted to give everyone a little chance to have maybe 30 seconds or a minute for some closing comments. Wow, that looks beautiful. Hey, Eugene. Hey, brother.
He brought me this. Amber, we're trying to call you
Wow,
back.
that's amazing.
Yes, please. So many synchronicities. I'm just listening. I have and Amber is answering like every single one of them. It is crazy. Anyway.
Oh, beautiful,
Amazing.
brother. So glad to see you. Amazing, Eugene. I'm so glad to meet you. It's awesome, bro.
Love it.
Awesome, bro. Awesome.
Love it.
Amazing.
Well, Marie, we'll start with you. Do you have any closing comments for today?
Just a lot of gratitude for, such beautiful men that you guys are, that you are doing this work and demonstrating, what it is to be, in my humble opinion, a real man, someone who's willing to clean themselves out, who's willing to take on, something that could be perceived from the carnivorous community as whatever they perceive it as. Just a lot of gratitude for you guys to really walk the walk, because this is very immense. That's the word of the week from Aaron yesterday. It's an immense journey. Just what happens, on the low days, on the high days, just that whole, up and down, reintroducing foods, just really going this deep with your body. It takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of faith. And so, yeah, and I'm super inspired by all of this. I think the furthest I got was 16 days. So I'm getting ready to start again. I thought it was yesterday and then it kind of got funky, but there's a lot that goes into it, being in a family and with small children. So I'm super inspired to just keep listening and learning. And I just love how I feel. I really do. And I think that's what happens. I just love how I'm feeling, even on the days when I'm a little bit tired, that I just don't want anything to mess with that. And that's, the mental work, and that's the getting over the parasites and continuing the journey that you talked about so beautifully, Kasey and Justin and Amber. We just love you so much and hold the vision that we're all together. I wish I could bring you all a coconut right now. And yeah, lots of love and gratitude for this information too, just keeping it getting out there. Oh, yay. I learned so much, and yeah, it's getting easier and easier. Just makes sense.
Surely. Yeah. Amber, what you got for us, brother?
So these are some final tips on juice feasting. And this is all in the show notes, but just for those people who are just going to hit look up wholesale produce in your area. I get that this is an expensive thing. It can be. But buying your produce wholesale directly from a wholesaler can really save. So I'll just keyword search wholesale produce in your area, see what pops up. You can also go to farmers markets and often get free cuttings, like people cutting their beet greens or their carrot tops or other things. You can often come up on some free stuff to juice. Farmers markets are just an incredible resource for that. Kasey, if you ever start getting a lot of sulfur out, and for anyone for that matter, if you start to have like fiery acidic bowel movements, it could be a sign that sulfur is coming out of your body.
Yeah.
Way to mitigate that.
No, I need these answers. Where'd he go?
Yeah, we're losing you, brother. Here, I'm gonna turn your camera off. Maybe that'll help the bandwidth a little bit.
I'll stop the video. Is that helping with clarity at all?
Yeah, that might help a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, just feel free to step in if it's if I'm Mr. Roboto.
Yeah.
So the sulfur inherently wants to bind to magnesium to create magnesium sulfate, and also oxygen to create magnesium sulfide or magnesium dioxide. So a great way to mitigate sulfur burns is 1, breath work, because then you're getting the oxygen to bind. 2, watermelon. It's pink because magnesium is pink. That's also the element that your heart uses to expand and contract. But you can also just get the magnesium oxide powder, and that will really help the painful sulfur eliminations. So if that comes up, just know that you don't have to suffer through that. I'd recommend adding in chaga tea. There's nothing wrong with adding tea to the juice feast if you want something a bit warmer, also to like boost your energy. Super antioxidant. Look into getting a vacuum sealer to help your juices last longer and keep them fresher. I would, if you're traveling a lot and moving around, I'd bring like a bathing suit because you can poop yourself. It's just a real thing. It's just a fact of the matter. So like if you're traveling a lot, bring a bathing suit because that can happen. Also, CBD, I think, is a great way to kind of ground and relax and maybe activate some creativity. It was a really great process of my juice feast process. 432 hertz music, could not emphasize the importance of that enough, because you're already mostly water, and then you're adding to the amount of water in your body. 432 hertz will have an even greater effect on recohering your geometric resonance with the cosmos and long count cycles and your timelessness. And then the last thing is that, you know, I'm absolutely working on this presentation about charisma ascension and sexuality because it's incredibly in demand. I've gotten a ton of emails and I invite more. If you want to reach me, just go to holarchy.cc or email me directly at askamber@protonmail.com. And I'll share resources for free on sexual mastery. That's also linked at the bottom of this description, because we'll talk about in that presentation how Juice Feast and juiciness is related to sexuality and sexual juices and fluids, how it all ties together. And so I am working at that presentation. It's likely going to be early May, because I keep on getting more and more nuanced additions to this. And I want it to be like a really holistic presentation on how we master our sexuality. And I know I saw some comments about like how people, you feel sexually inadequate having been circumcised, because there's no doubt it's more pleasurable for a woman to be with an uncircumcised male. And that's absolutely a really hard thing to deal with and grapple with as a man, because it's kind of, you know, it kind of chips away at your masculinity. But these sexual practices that we're talking about, of not semen retention, but semen ascension, is going to be a complete game changer and a way to make up for that hindrance. And so just to the person in that chat, I know how it's both hard to write that and even harder to feel that, and know that Justin and I are going to do a presentation very soon all about healing the sexuality and how it is as important as anything we've ever talked about, because things end as they begin. We all began with sex. And so as we heal that, we're going to really make leaps and bounds with the shadow work, trauma clearing, and being able to integrate the more beautiful things we have to look forward to. And I'm so honored to be on with you guys. I was so excited about this. It is such a pleasure. I treasure you guys immensely. And yeah, just, you know, the Miraculous Mondays, that last one was so deep. And, you know, Justin, you're such a, and you too, Marie, you guys are really.
Well, we lost you. You guys are really, and then you leave us hanging. But I'm sure it's beautiful. I'm sure it's beautifully said. I appreciate the love and gratitude. And yes, that show that we're going to do on semen ascension is going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that. So as soon as Amber gets everything squared away and we get that show out there, we'll make sure to broadcast it far and wide. And just on well, just on this show specifically, this is going to be a series. You know, I don't know how often we're going to do it, but we would love to kind of keep this cadence of having, you know, experts join us, like Remembrancer, like Charlie, like Josh, like Tony, and any other ones that kind of pop up along the way. to just bring their gnosis and bring this path to health back to us. And we love having Kasey here as the sort of beautiful expression of going through this journey. And we're all going through this journey together. You know, I just started on it fairly recently. Marie just started on it fairly recently. So it's all raw and real and fresh. And that's what's so helpful with that. But Kasey, I'll pass it over to you for any closing comments or what you end the show with.
Yeah, just thank you all for being here. This has been my highest energy day so far. And I think it's just talking to people like you who are going through this stuff. So I think it really is important to have a community of people who are like-minded like this. I always ignored that in my beginning stages. Like, yeah, I can do it myself, but it's so much better when you can share it. So like, if you're going through this, like, start a channel, start telling your story. We need more people like you on YouTube, inspiring people, because not everybody's going to like my style of speech. People are going to be put off. They need you to tell your story. Everybody just vibes with a different person. So everybody needs to just talk about how they healed. And thank you all so much for coming on. I learned a lot today. I have a bunch of things to look up, the Zodiac and the cell salts and white oak bark powder. So good times. And thanks for having me on. And anytime.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's I mean, and guys, that's how you know Kasey's the real deal, because when you're in it with that level of humility to share that, to recognize that we've all got our own flair. It's not all about just me, my, you know, it's all about sharing the truth, and we each have our own way, our own relative sense of the truth, the one truth, and we can share it, and it's so beautifully perfect. It's so beautiful. It fits so well. So if you do feel called to share, like, please do, please join us. It's always welcome. But yeah, this was a fantastic show. I've really enjoyed having y'all here and doing this. Really looking forward to continuing this conversation and just sharing this healing path with as many as are willing to hear it. Because as soon as we all start to glow with that radiance, others can't help but see it and be drawn to it. And that's the beautiful part about magnetism and how it works. So thank you both so much, and thank you, Remembrancer. You know, we love you too. I'm glad your connection made it all the way to the very end. And yeah, we will talk to y'all next time. Love you guys.
Say nice to meet you, Kasey. Love you.
Nice to meet you too. Love you too, Marie. Keep doing your show, Miraculous Mondays. And I love hearing all your guys' talks, the Bible breakdowns, everything's, it's amazing.
Yeah, we'll keep doing them. All right, guys.
All righty. Okay. Take care.